Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Thunder Pod's Turnbuckle Time Machine. Tonight, we're going to be talking about WCW's Great American Bash 1995. Originally happened June 18th of 1995, crazy enough, in Dayton, Ohio, at the Hara Arena. Or it might just be called Hara Arena. I'm not totally sure.
Hara Arena.
It's a weird place.
Hara Arena.
And it sounds weird. It's hard to mouth feel.
Hara
Arena. And it also has a ton of wrestling history, which makes it even weirder that I was like, where the fuck is this place? I've never heard of it before. But then when I looked into it, I'm like, there's a bunch of big things that happen there, including the Turnbuckle Time Machine episode that we're going to be doing next week was also at this same arena.
WrestleMania 20.
They did 6,000 even. I know you like the round numbers, Dave. That I didn't believe when, I'm like, that's a silly number. They're making that up to make it sound. But their actual capacity for the building was 6,000 even. When I looked it up on, at least according to Wikipedia.
It's good for tax time.
So it was a full house of 6,000. And they did a pay-per-view buy rate of either 90,000 or 100,000 because this is pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And everybody tells you a different thing. Somebody's lying. My guess is the bigger number is the wrong number, so probably about 90,000, which would have been in line like with 1995 WCW pay-per-view buy rates, which makes me laugh because multiple times on the show, Bobby Heenan, as Shivani and Heenan are our hosts for the evening, Heenan talks about the millions of people walking around, watching around the world, and I'm like, yeah, 90,000, Bobby, like 90,000 households, so at the most like 500,000 maybe, like, I always just bought that shit when I was a kid. Millions watching around, up until, like, The Rock was saying it. I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, millions. No, it's not millions. Like, at their peak, they were, like, maybe a million pay-per-view buys, like, for the very top show. But it was always millions and millions. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that must be right. Well, wrestlers will never lie to me.
They never do.
They're my heroes. Why would they lie?
No.
And it's pretty much, exactly their average. This was the first Great American Bash since 1992.
Yeah, it was a 3-year hiatus.
I couldn't find why. I looked and looked, and there didn't seem to be. I even delved into something I almost never do, and listened to a couple other wrestling radio shows.
Yeah, not podcasts.
There
are no other wrestling podcasts.
But like the more historian-based shows that are out there, and nobody had a fucking answer, so it's weird. The closest thing that I found that's all right, Rocky, relax. The closest thing that I found, or the thing that was most amusing to me, because it yielded like an anecdote that I think is goddamn hilarious, was that Ted Turner, I guess, for a while there, had an idea that he wanted to make his channels like less nationalistic because he thought it was too politically nationalistic, their broadcasts or whatever. So they thought maybe that's why they got rid of Great American Bash. But the thing that came out of that I loved super much was, and I never noticed this, but now I got to go back and watch on their broadcasts during this time period where this is what Turner's going for. He made the announcer stop calling foreign objects, and he called them international objects, which is a beautiful misunderstanding of what that foreign has multiple definitions. And Ted Turner obviously doesn't know that.
Right. And
he also thought in his head that every weapon that was used in wrestling, we as a wrestling community believed that it came from overseas.
Well, kendo sticks.
Yeah, like steel chairs. I don't think are being imported.
No, those are from Poland.
Brass knucks.
Yeah,
well, brass knucks probably were actually Russian, probably because that's like where you can still get them today.
Right.
Because I think they're illegal everywhere in the States.
Yeah.
But yeah, international. I'm dying now to find somewhere like Mike Tenay calling something an international object. But yeah, so big hiatus. This was, it was the first one since, not like we said, 92, and that 92 one had one of my favorite matches of all time. The main event was the Sting Vader, like one of Sting's best matches.
Yeah.
So it is kind of strange that they like abandoned it. The buy rates for the Great American Bashes too, and historically were fine. They weren't like as good as Starrcades and stuff, but they were fine. So there must be some kind of story, but apparently it's one of those that's lost to history.
Is this when they were like going, because this used to be an NWA thing, so like wasn't the Great American Bash, that was an NWA thing, and then WCW acquired it at some point. So was that the hiatus? Were they going through like their Jim Herd stuff at this time? Where
did they acquire NWA? Because
no, I don't think they acquired NWA, but I think they maybe partnered with them because
they did partner with them for a long time.
That used to be
because
NWA
we talked about it on this show.
Yeah.
They had that big like clusterfuck when Ric Flair lost to the Japanese guy in Japan, and it was the NWA, like 10 pounds of gold. That was the NWA title. But they also had WCW had their own, which was the big gold. Like the super tall belt.
Right.
And like the rule for being thrown over the top rope was only existed in NWA, not WCW. So like Flair said he only lost the one belt because the guy would have been disqualified for throwing over the top rope.
Yeah.
All that nonsense. So I think it was just like affiliation. And then I think after that, they were no longer affiliated with NWA. So if it was an NWA like property, I don't think they could have just continued using it.
I'm just trying to speculate what it could have been.
I have no idea. I'm just talking it through. But it is wrestling, so there might have been like mob threats of physical violence involved or whatever, and then they got to keep the Great American Bash.
It could have been. I really don't know. Maybe Flair was gone. Hogan was gone.
That was right when.
So like, what did they really have to do?
Yeah,
pay-per-view. Maybe they slimmed down the amount of.
92 was a pretty good wrestling year. Yeah. Sting, Vader, and that Rumble we did. Like Jesus Christ.
But like, okay, so they could have sold a pay-per-view on the back of Sting and Vader. They had guys.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a great question.
Speaking of wrestling years, this year, 1995, not a great wrestling year.
I don't know. I think it's pretty spectacular.
Looking at this pay-per-view, Dave, actually, I'll ask you first. What was your overall feelings about Great American Bash 1995?
Prior to us doing this, when I would think about WCW in the 90s, this is what I thought of.
Yeah, me too, kind of.
This was a painfully 90s WCW pay-per-view, and that means there was some good shit, and there was some ridiculous shit, and there was some okay shit, and there was some shit that surprised me that I liked as much as I did. And it looked like a WCW show, and it sounded like a WCW show, and it was paced like a WCW show. Like it was exactly what I expected when I saw the poster for what I was about to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the poster is crazy too.
Yeah.
I will say, just because it's like a theme and it just happens to be true, because I'm a different wrestling fan now than I was then. The stuff that I did like, I liked way more than I would have had I watched it in 1995.
Yeah.
But across, like, on average, not a very good show. But like, for not a very good show, there's some stuff that I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And back then I would have been like, as a 15-year-old, like, oh, there's these old guys. I don't care about this or that. And like, I dug some of that stuff now more than I would have then. And I also, some of the bad stuff I find pretty funny now that I would have just been like aggravated by in the 90s when watching.
Imagine buying a pay-per-view and seeing a fucking arm wrestling contest.
Yeah, that's the other pay money part. In arm wrestling contest with one of your older and least jacked dudes. Like, how did that gimmick?
I can't wait to talk. I have so much to say about that. You could tell that this was not exactly. I don't know if this was like a WCW edict but like they had a. Prior to this, first off, it's on Father's Day.
Yeah,
which plays.
They mentioned it about 1 billion times.
Yeah, and that actually, like, cleverly enough, plays into the main event.
It does. Like the best usage of it was definitely in the main event.
The first Hokies it was, but they had a contest prior to the show starting where you had to send a photo in of your father if he looks like a WCW superstar, and then like they vote to win. I don't know how it was selected or who the voting. Like there was no like further rules. It's just like, hey, we had a contest. If your dad looks like a guy,
never
let
any.
us know.
Like this is the theme, and there's never any explanation as to how like the fans actually win. The reason I know it's a theme is because when we did, remember the Big Show, the Giants and Hogan in the monster truck battle. Attached to that, there was like a lady that won a monster truck.
Yeah.
And they showed her, and she's like, it was just like a 70-year-old woman. And then I looked it up, and she's like still alive. She's like 102 and still lives in like Georgia or whatever.
She lives in the monster truck.
But they never explained why,
she's small. She could fit in there.
Greta so-and-so of
she can't get down.
Bumfuck Georgia got to win this thing. This dude, they at least showed the guy, and he did look like Boss Man's bullshit gimmick.
Yeah, there were several times where the camera panned, and I'm like, why is the big boss man in the front row?
Yeah.
It guy was a dead ass ringer.
Yeah, it was. It was like he deserved the win for Big Bubba or whatever they called him.
Yeah,
when he had to get rid of his real gimmick. You know?
The successful gimmick.
Yeah, the good gimmick.
He was like, wasn't he Angel at some point? He had I remember him wearing a T-shirt that he looked like he got at Goodwill or something.
I mean, right now during this pro, he was not on the show except in recap stuff, but it was basically just a white dress shirt and a tie.
I remember him wearing a T-shirt and calling himself Angel. I could be totally fucking wrong.
That sounds like something that they would do. Absolutely.
Ray, what was his name? Ray Traylor.
Ray Traylor.
Angel.
One of the more underrated wrestlers of our life.
Oh, Ray Traylor. Apparently, there's a YouTube channel called Ray and Angel. I'm never gonna find this. I'll research it for the next Turnbuckle Time Machine. But yeah, good for him. He won front row tickets to a painfully ordinary show, and it wasn't even a show that the company thought too highly of on their own, because they teased in the beginning that it was going to be way better. Yeah. And then they're just like, nah.
They also, the other thing they do is, and I've noticed that this time period, they do this regularly, but it was particularly egregious here. They advertise other pay-per-views during a pay-per-view, nonstop. Yeah. And if today, if I paid for a pay-per-view and then was shown this stuff that these guys were talking about sounding like it's going to be way better than the stuff I'm watching now, it pissed me right the hell off. But they were very happy to talk about Halloween Havoc and Slamboree and all these other things during the show.
Yeah. And Bash at the Beach.
The opening, I will say, the opening package, when the show first opens, the video packages that they put together, it looked to me very much like it was made by a company that does corporate instructional videos for warehouse employees on OSHA standards, that vibe, that level of fidelity. I don't know what you would call it back then. I mean, fidelity, I guess, but not 4K, whatever the videotape equivalent of 420 or whatever at lowest. I'm not even gonna try to stop him.
Oh, okay.
That's our mascot is chewing on some shit off.
It had very Bozo dubbed over vibes.
Absolutely, yeah. The tape's been used 1,000 times, but something the one
not even supposed to be here. You guys ever see Bozo dubbed over?
We get the Brain, as is his tradition for these shows that we do, and Tony Schiavone. Bobby, it wasn't his best performance, but he still had some good stuff. Schiavone, I think, might have been hungover or something because he made quite a few mistakes during the show.
I was in doing research for the show. I found out that Tony Schiavone recently came off of neck surgery or something.
Oh, so he was probably on
he was
pain meds.
And as I'm watching it, because I was kind of reading and watching at the same time, because I noticed it too. I'm like, Schiavone, what is he chewing? Well, it's gone now. Well, maybe not.
He'll be fine.
He wasn't able to turn completely, he did his head or whatever.
And he was super sweaty too. The back of his neck was sweaty, so that would be also in line with potentially high as hell.
Absolutely. But so if he was uncomfortable, that's probably why he just came off of surgery.
It could be did you see the Roger Goodell stuff for the NFL draft?
No. It's 1995. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, stepping outside of 1995 for just this one little anecdote, Roger Goodell just had back surgery right before doing, he announced every draft pick at the NFL draft because he's the commissioner of the NFL. Mm-hmm. He was evidently super, super high on pain meds because he kept doing a lot of very funny things, like saying, we've been waiting for years to come here, because they were in Detroit, to have this show in Big D, which is Dallas, not Detroit, but in the great city of Detroit. There were several things like that were then later attributed to the Oxy or whatever that he was probably popping.
It's good.
Schiavone had a similar performance during the show. I felt
he was good. I like salty Tony Schiavone.
Yes, me too.
I much prefer him.
And they had I did like their I don't know if you call it rapport, but that back and forth, the salt.
Bobby Heenan was Bobby Heenan seemed like he had a little indigestion. Something was not. He wasn't his usual jovial, jokey self. It was he had more of just it was a little gruffer.
Yeah, and both guys had a little bit of what is traditionally a Jim Ross energy of if there's a match going on, especially if there's like one performer that they respect and another they like know and think is a piece of shit, just shouldn't be in the ring, they don't keep that hidden. They'll like say stuff, very thinly veiled stuff about like how that other guy is being lazy or sucks or whatever.
Right.
And there was a few of those matches on this show, so I think that like came across too. Those I enjoy though. Those make me giggle.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like fuck this guy.
It's just different. I also enjoyed Bobby Heenan's Jerry Springer glasses. Like he looked like super like mid 90s. Like I don't know. That's what I thought of Jerry Springer.
It felt like he was like lost a bet with the outfit that he was rocking. I like it made me laugh audibly, and then I actually went back so I could like try to describe what Bobby Heenan actually has on for this show. Shivani's just dressed normal, like I think he's the tux, whatever, like his normal WCW announcer thing.
Yeah,
and next to him, Bobby Heenan is wearing a purple double-breasted 90s, very 90s double-breasted 4-buttoner suit with like a blue and white pinstripe dress shirt with one of those like douchebag CEO white collars like Lumbergh from fucking Office Space. He's got a bow tie, so it's a blue and white shirt, purple suit. He's got a bow tie on that, like as far as I could tell, had every color on Earth except purple or blue involved in it. And then he's wearing completely inexplicable Elvis Costello glasses the whole time. Like, I don't even know if I ever remember him wearing glasses at all, let alone like the most ridiculous glasses I've ever seen in my life.
I couldn't figure out where his center of vision was on those glasses. Like when you're under the big like camera 1, camera 2 kind of thing, and then they put glasses on, like where's the focal point on those glasses? Because they were sitting very oddly and they were shaped very oddly.
Yeah, they look like the big Elvis Costello like cat glasses.
But his eyes weren't in the middle.
No,
like it really. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, to your point, it looks like he lost a bet.
I thought it was going to play into an angle or something.
Yeah,
and it never did. No. It was just like, why is Bobby Heenan, for the one time in his career, dressed absolutely insane?
Yeah. Well, something had to be entertaining on this show. And granted, there was some good stuff. But they left some data. I did not know this because I'm now revisiting WCW. They had a pre-show on this.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
For pay-per-views, they had something called the main event. Not of the evening, just the main event.
Like the early evening.
Yeah, the early evening. And it was like the equivalent of Sunday Night Heat.
Okay.
And they had 3 matches on the main event.
I want to say that was my earliest memory of there being a lead-in show, was when they started doing Heat prior to WWF pay-per-views, because that's what I was watching at the time.
Yeah.
But they did that in 95 then.
I have zero recollection of this.
So maybe it was actually WWF ripping off a WCW idea. I have another one, a question. I may as well ask it now. Was Nastyville a thing before Dudleyville or after? Because they say it on this show, and it made me think Dudley's ripped that off of the Nasty Boys.
Could have. I don't know. And I'm going to keep an eye on it now.
The Nasty Boys are my biggest revelation of us doing any of these.
I don't know
I'm
why
consistently happy with their work.
They're approaching to step out of 1995 again into the present day. I like the Nasty Boys as much as I like Angelo Dawkins lately.
Yeah, I'm like, I had the thought during this show that I'm like, I think the Nasty Boys are better than the Dudleys. How the fuck am I thinking that now? Like,
they're so good.
That seems insane to me, but I had that thought. Like,
they work their asses off.
I think they're better than the Dudley Boys.
So fun. They're never in the conversation either.
No.
Are they in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Hunter, Hall of Fame.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The first match of the show
was a dark match. We got.
I forgot you were about to tell me about that.
Yeah,
please.
Oh, you're fine. Because it plays into some of the shit on the show. So the first was Harlem Heat, which was Booker T, and Stevie Ray, and they were with Sister Sherry. They defeated the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers.
So they worked double duty?
They did, yeah.
Actually, triple duty if they kind of run it.
And the Fantastics were subs for the Rock and Roll Express, who had prior NWA commitments. So it might have been Harlem Heat against the Rock and Roll Express on a dark match.
I would have liked to watch that match.
Yeah. So prior to
so they were but boy, WCW loved to book people to do a ton of shit.
Yeah.
On every show.
Well, that's one thing, because the second dark match was Sergeant Craig Pittman defeated Scott D'Amore, and Sergeant Craig Pittman would wrestle on the goddamn pay-per-view.
I actually, now that you mention it, they say that during commentary. I do now remember them saying that this dude wrestled earlier today.
Yeah.
He was working double duty.
Yeah.
Because I thought, why? If you're going to have somebody work double duty, why not have it be like Pillman or something? Like, this guy is not worth.
Well, they were trying something with this guy, and
yeah, they sure were.
Didn't work out.
They took a big swing with him.
Yeah, A for effort. No, not even A. Fucking C+ for effort.
Yeah.
And then the third dark match was Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck with Colonel.
Again, so double duty again for those guys.
With Colonel Robert Parker defeated Frankie Lancaster and Barry Houston.
What a weird thing to have watched live. Then you go there, you watch. Dick Slater, maybe the worst human being that's ever wrestled professionally.
What do you mean?
He stabbed his wife in the chest. There's a bunch of allegations also about other even worse behavior.
Yeah.
And then he died relatively recently. Like nobody went to his funeral.
Oh, Jesus.
Bad guy. But like you watch those guys in what sounds like probably was a squash match. But then the main match that they had on the show is like super long.
Yeah.
It'd be a weird experience, like watching randomly these different acts wrestle a match and then 25 minutes later wrestle again without any storyline explanation or anything.
And one of them did get a storyline, like the Harlem Heat one. So after the Harlem Heat match, Harlem Heat and Sister Sherry they come out and they're confronting Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck. It actually might be.
Oh, okay. They showed this. I just figured it was on TV. I didn't know it was on this show.
It was the main event. Yeah.
I thought it was a thing from there. Whatever. There.
Sherry punches Colonel Robert Parker,
fucking lazy.
and then they get challenged to a match later.
He sexually assaults her, and she fucking
potatoes
him.
I wrote down 2 promos word for word. What Colonel Robert Parker said is one of them.
Okay,
because
cool.
It is the most 2024. Like he'd be in jail.
Yeah, I mean he physically sexually assaulted a Cherry on screen in the video package they showed.
Yeah,
and she hit him as
hard.
If it was a shoot thing that he was not supposed to be doing.
To his credit, he sold it like he actually got punched.
I don't know if it was him selling it or him getting knocked the fuck out.
He should have been knocked the fuck out. Also,
he hit him right on the chin.
We were supposed to have Hacksaw Jim Duggan wrestles on this show. He wrestles.
I guess you could call it wrestling.
Sergeant Craig Pittman.
He was on screen.
Well, he wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Yeah.
Hurt? Drugs? What happened?
Hurt. So
okay. He was in the U.S. title tournament.
The research I did, and I hope I'm right because this is such nonsense, is he recently had calf implants prior to
that's great. That's so perfect for him. he I'm sure that's right. Because that's so exactly what
I'll never forget watching. Remember when MTV had like True Life?
Yes.
I want to be a this or
Absolutely.
I want plastic surgery or whatever.
Yeah.
There was one episode where a guy got calf implants and they talked about fucking Buff Bagwell on that episode.
You're absolutely right. You just unlocked a memory that was buried in my brain.
Once I read that,
holy shit, you're absolutely right.
I remember the guy going, "No, I got big calves." He slaps me and I love him. And I just remember, why is Buff Bagwell?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
So he
I hope that doesn't unlock some other weird trauma that happened to me right at that same time. And now because I remember that, I'm gonna not sleep for a week.
The episode has just started, so we're not even into it. But yeah, it was supposed to be Buff Bagwell, or he's not even Buff Bagwell. He's Marcus Bagwell at this point.
Around with that Marcus thing way longer than I remembered. Because every one of these things we review, it's Marcus Bagwell and some other stupid gimmick doing bullshit.
Well, he wasn't quite the stuff yet.
Yeah.
And then, as you were mentioning in the opening package, they highlight 4 big matches: the Sting versus Meng. The Renegade versus Arn Anderson, the Nasty Boys versus the Blue Bloods, and Macho Man versus Ric Flair. That's the big beats that they want for this show.
That's what Rocky thought of those.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of so Sting Meng. I get that with Sting.
Yeah.
The tag match, that's the one I would focus on too if I was promoting. What were the other two? I'm sorry.
The Renegade versus Arn Anderson.
I probably wouldn't want to talk about. I know that they were going to do a big thing with that, but me personally. Want to erase that from history.
I read that Hogan wanted that. Hogan wanted the Renegade bad.
I know he was a Hogan, they talk about on the show even. He was like a Hogan bring-in guy.
Back up. Jimmy Hart wanted him. And then he went to Hogan and they pitched him at this guy. It was just a way to, it was because it was a warrior. It was the ultimate warrior.
It's the worst. I mean, it is the most flagrant rip. Wrestling is all rip-offs. There's always borrowing or stealing. That is the most egregious one I've ever seen. I think
I was
still.
trying to find, like, we'll pose this to you. What is the most successful ripoff in wrestling history? The one that came to mind, obviously, the two are Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan.
Woo! It's the Nature Boy, and Hogan did. What's his face?
I'm looking at him.
Billy Graham.
Superstar Billy Graham.
Hogan's was like a little bit of a couple of guys, but Billy Graham is the one.
Is there a modern one like 90s and up, like where they ripped off a character? You can't say Goldberg because it wasn't a ripoff. He just looked like him.
There's like tons of like a lot of people have borrowed from Raven in recent years, a lot of his stuff, but nobody's stolen that. Like,
but where like straight up where you're like oh,
this is like they should have been sued. This was like Renegade is GoBot's Ultimate Warrior. Like it is Renegade is the action figure that your grandma buys at the grocery store, thinking that you're going to be happy when she gives it to you,
right?
Because she doesn't realize that Renegade and Ultimate Warrior are two different things,
right?
That's how like much of a ripoff this one is.
Yeah,
but I can't think of one that's like.
I got nothing.
Like a direct, and then it was super successful.
No, like public.
Maybe something weird will pop into my head.
Public Enemy get ripped off by somebody, and there was like a big like.
Well,
we ripped off.
The two tag teams we just talked about in competition with one another, the Nasty Boys and Dudley Boys, are both kind of Public Enemy too.
Yeah.
Like they similar like move sets, the way they dressed. Public Enemy.
It's close.
Pissed somebody off. I remember that because the APA tried to murder them that one time.
It was the APA because they didn't want to. They changed the finish like as they were walking out to the ring, and then APA is just like, we're gonna hit you for real for a long time.
We're terrible people. So
damn.
I wish Ron Simmons would have. He seems like separated from douchebag Layfield.
Yeah.
He was all right guy. Like still kind of a dick, but like. When they were together, it seemed like he went along with whatever bullshit bullying nonsense.
Dude, it was the most success he ever had in his career. So,
true.
like, you gotta
I like Doom better.
Ride the wave.
I just hate Bradshaw so much.
You're fine. Also, too, before we wrap up, is and they touch on this later in the show, but Vader and Hulk Hogan, which we already kind of mentioned, had a run-in with each other, and they were heavily suggesting this match was going to be added to tonight's pay-per-view.
They talk about it like the whole time, and then they're not even like in Ohio or whatever. Like it was weird. It was super weird. They were cutting to stuff, and it was like interjecting that story into other stories.
Oh, no, they were. If I remember correctly, what's it called?
Was the thing they showed
Nick
from
Bockwink,
the pre-show, or
I believe so.
So they were there. So then
out,
why not do that?
Yeah.
Like, what a bunch of weird decisions.
Yeah. Or if it's not, it wasn't presented correctly enough for me to understand. Like, and that's a good point you're bringing up. It's like, when timestamp some shit. Top right hand corner is super empty. Put a date up there. So
and they're capable of it at this time because they did some stuff that I was like, that's an awesome, super informative video package that brings me up to speed right now watching this in 2024.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. Right. But then they do shit like that where they got like, oh, here's this concurrent feud that we're going to hint might happen later tonight, like be blown off later tonight, and we'll just intersperse it. And then like we have no idea when that happened. Was this on the pre-show? Was this on a prior pay-per-view? Was this on like whatever their version of Nitro was? I don't think Nitro existed quite yet.
Not quite. Nope, not for. This is 95. I mean, they're Lava Hava about a year from now.
What was their weekly? I know like WWF was prime time. Did WCW have a weekly?
Was it like Saturday night?
Ooh, that's probably why they had some trouble getting a wider audience until they decided to steal.
Is that when they had the rotating ring? Remember that shit?
Oh my god,
It was like on a slow spinner.
It was like supposed. I guess it was real hard to work without getting hurt.
I've
heard guys talking about like it was almost impossible not to
a giant
tear up your knees and shit. And then like of course they don't learn from anything. The one good idea that they did steal from WWF is to put a weekly show on not during a weekend, but on a night that people want to watch.
Yeah.
Everything else that they try to steal from WWF is like the Renegade, where it's just dime store bullshit and it makes their show worse.
Yeah.
And then like you look out into the crowd, there was a couple sitting in the front row of this show that just looked like they got off the tractor like walked in. It was just like a 70-year-old super fat guy, his trucker hat that's like this high off his head, and his like wife who looked like she was about 90 years old and 400 pounds and had been to every wrestling show that came through Ohio for the last like 50 years. That fan base does not give a shit about like Koko Beware or the Ultimate Warrior or the Mountie or
Colonel Parker gave them a ride to the show. Like that is some good old boy.
They want wrestling like, and hard hitting, like blood, and they don't care about the And WCW never really. They understood it for a long time, but then the more they got away from it, the more the ship started to sink.
Right.
The Renegade was a real good example of an early version of that.
It's tough.
Like,
it's Plus,
now I'm just thinking about this. You have Sting, the guy that's the Ultimate Warrior's like was his tag partner, is a million times better than the Warrior in literally every way, including like seemingly as a person, like as a human being.
Yeah.
Why then need to add a guy that's just dressed in a costume, the Ultimate Warrior costume?
If I had to gauge a guess, I should gauge a guess. Does that work there? If I had to entertain a guess, I'll say that. Sting looked amazing.
Yeah.
During this period, I don't think Hogan was.
Oh, he
up
didn't
to
want to.
snuff.
Nah, he didn't want to be in the ring with a guy that's
bigger,
bigger,
better
at everything, more handsome, like can do more stuff.
It would be
more charismatic,
jarring. To see Hulk Hogan. Nobody would buy it.
Yeah,
nobody would buy it. So they had to find.
He could make Hogan like he could drag him to a decent match at least. He was able to do that with fucking Mang.
Yeah. Oh no, Sting. Yeah.
Sting, you're right though. I agree with I think your premise is correct.
It's just a thought, but I can't get over how, and we were talking about it before we started recording, how the fuck did he never get a amazing WWE run for how he was as Punk back in 2024. Now CM Punk referred to himself as a 5-tool player in wrestling. Sting was probably
absolutely
the first 5-tool player.
5 chiseled, high flying moves that looked like incredible and safe.
Great promo.
Great promo. Can work any style match. I just like Nasty Boys. I said was my biggest revelation, but the real biggest revelation doing these shows is that like how much more Sting is in my own personal conversation for one of the, if not the greatest wrestlers ever lived.
Yeah.
I never really thought of him that way, despite like a lot of WCW heads saying like, no, I always just assumed, oh, that's because they're WCW guys. Yeah. No, he's just great at everything.
Right.
And always was.
Yeah.
You're probably right about that though. I wonder if that's why the Undertaker thing, have you ever heard Sting talk about like modern interviews where he still talks about how he was dying to do a Taker feud and Undertaker refused. And then like, people ask him, well, it would, if you called now, like, and asked him, you think he would, and he said Taker wouldn't pick up the phone. So, like, Undertaker's got a problem with Stinger, too.
Right.
Like, one of the only people on Earth. I wonder if it's the same reason that Hogan didn't want to be in the ring with him.
Undertaker should have picked up the phone because he needs amazing humans to have fucking decent matches.
Exactly.
So.
He could have been, yes. You could have added Sting to, like, the HBK and, like, 2 or 3 other CM Punk.
The reason The Undertaker worked with so many good guys is because he had this allure of, like, oh, the streak is important. So I can just beat whoever the fuck I want.
Absolutely.
Like, and I don't think Sting... I think that would have been a real conversation. Like who needs to win this match?
Sure.
Because both are, I would argue, Sting has a little more provenance. Like
watching them in the ring together, Sting would be more believable as the better wrestler, too.
Right.
Because he was. The better wrestler.
And he worked multiple styles very well.
Yeah. Long.
And he can just go. And it just depends what the Undertaker's hips were up to that week.
Yeah,
like, could he keep up with them? Like, can I? Now that we're talking about this, I think a lot of this is can I keep up? Can with I keep this motherfucker?
Up? Yeah. Because Sting is not like HBK or Punk, where they're smaller guys that are just going to bump their asses off for Taker.
Yeah.
Sting was like 300 pounds of muscle.
Right.
So
I mean, even down to AJ Styles, like right at the end, his last one, and
the smaller dude.
Like it was the best Raw match he ever had. It's fucking Jeff Hardy. Like he doesn't have. Good matches against big people.
Other people that, where he has to sell it all, basically, or bump for anybody.
Or lead the goddamn match to a degree where a big guy, do what I want you to do here. Like, dude, I went to WrestleMania 22, and granted, it's Mark Henry at WrestleMania 22. Ugh.
Yeah.
It was tough to sit through.
I'm so tired of this. Does tie into the show, but people always talk about the Undertaker when they are talking about wrestlers with the best work punches.
No,
I think they're the worst. I think they're Eddie Kingston's baby slaps.
Yeah,
and the reason that ties in is because the main event of the show, I think, maybe has the two of the three best work punches in the history of wrestling, and Flair and Savage, and I think Bret Hart's the other one that's probably the best I've ever seen. Maybe Absolutely. Terry Funk, but people always talk about Taker. I'm like, no, he just does that thing where he like throws a bunch of bad looking punches in a row.
Yeah, if they all hit the way that he threw them, it'd be KOs within the first like 30 seconds of the match. So really quick, I wanted to highlight, because the reason we're doing all the episodes we're doing is Bobby Heenan influence, right? So right at the top of the show, they are kind of reviewing what's going to happen for the main event, which is Ric Flair versus Randy Savage, and the entire foundation of this is at Slamboree, the previous pay-per-view. Ric Flair put Angelo Poffo, Randy Savage's dad, in the figure four leg. We beat the shit out of him, and then he put him in the figure four leg.
Angelo did not look to be in great health for doing the stuff that he was willing to do on that show and this one. But I was like, damn, Angelo.
I don't think. I would love to know what Mrs. Poffo looked like, because her son's got none of her genes.
No.
My God, put a mustache on that man. It is the Macho Man.
He's the Macho Man and the Genius just morphed together. Is Angelo.
Maybe it was like like an immaculate birth somehow, where there wasn't a woman involved.
Neither Macho or Genius kind of seem like human beings. They seem like aliens.
Yeah.
So maybe they were they were
hatched.
It was like what is it when single cell organisms like divide and that's how they reproduce? That's how the Poffos. You know what bothers me though? They always
mitosis.
They bill mitosis. They bill everybody in the Poffo family from Sarasota, and they're Chicago people. We're punk guys. Evidence right there. I want our flag on stuff. I'm more, as I've said before, proud of Chicago than I am of America. Yeah, Dave has got it permanently inked on his. I do too, but it's on my penis, so I'm not going to show that. It'll get taken off of YouTube. But I want my Chicago people to represent. We got the Road Warriors. We got CM Punk. I like that shit. And every time they say Sarasota, I'm like, no, you're not. No, stop. And they were like, Angelo's resting at home in Sarasota. I'm like, he's probably resting at home in Highland Park or something like. But Angelo figure four.
Look, sorry. No, all good points.
I derailed.
After the podcast, going to need to see that tattoo. Bobby Heenan says, related to the main event, he goes, well, some people think that maybe Ric Flair stepped over the line. Maybe he went a little too far, putting the figure four on Angelo Poffo, the father of the Macho Man. Savage, what you should have done is beat up your dad years ago for just being your father. Well, you're going to get your tail kicked tonight by the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Love that insinuation. What a great Macho's line. Fault for not having beaten his dad up for just being himself. And he gave no indication of why being himself was so bad that his son would have had to have beat his ass.
Right.
But it's your fault anyway, Macho. Because Heenan loves Rick.
And there's no, so we've gone from a couple episodes of Turnbuckle Time Machine ago, we did Royal Rumble 92, where you see Heenan just being might as well being amphetamine up to the gills, so excited.
Gushing.
Here, he's way calmer, but he still has this character dialed the fuck in. And his energy is 10% of what it was 3 years ago.
And then when we get to the main event, he dials it up in a different way. Mm-hmm. It's not Rumble was excited and nervous because it was an opportunity. This was as we got closer, and then during the match, he was like, Randy Savage is a scary guy, and he really wants to fucking kill my friend Rick.
Yeah.
And he sold that story really well.
Right.
Be careful, Rick. This guy's a maniac. And what you did was kind of effed up. So it was understated because of that, because I think the story dictated that it'd be told a little differently. He's the GOAT.
He's amazing.
He's the GOAT. It's kind of a crappy pay-per-view still. He's still putting the effort in and it goes for the rest of the good wrestlers on the show too. I'm always more impressed when the guys are wearing their working boots on a show that they probably know is not great.
Right.
And for Heenan to do it here, that's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah. Speaking of good wrestlers, we should probably start talking about this goddamn pay-per-view.
Yeah. It did. Because it opened pretty strong.
It opened Flying Brian Pillman versus Das Wunderkind. Alex Wright. They fought for 15 minutes and 42 seconds.
It was Alex wasn't quite doing his full.
They were trying to make him a babyface still.
But the weird thing is Heenan did talk about him dancing. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, you can the Wunderkind can dance all he wants, but when he gets in, that kind of thing. But I'm like, I don't think he danced when he was walking out. So like, he
was doing what he thought Germans did, which is go to like disco. Like,
yeah.
It was very like stereotypical German stuff.
It was 1995 wrestling, so yeah.
Also, too, I found out that. Would you take a wild guess who Alex Wright's largest advocate backstage was?
Oh man, I should know this. I probably have heard it. I'll just say Bischoff.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
Loved him.
I did know that because Ric Flair got Paul Roma fired for fucking with Alex Wright. We talked about it on another show.
Right.
So, yeah, that makes sense. Ric Flair does have a good eye for talent.
Massive.
You know how old Alex Wright was here?
19.
Yeah.
19
just
years
about
old.
to turn 20.
Yeah.
And he's working with, like, Flying Brian and keeping up with him for a long-ass match,
right.
too. Like, I thought this match was fantastic.
It was good. It was really good for Alex Wright, still, like you said, 19, still very green. This was more of like an acrobatic match.
Yeah, it wasn't. He didn't have the character stuff yet,
and like, but filling in the gaps was Brian Pillman working his goddamn ass off,
absolutely,
to make him look amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the cardio wise, Alex Wright kept up with him. Like his ring shape was there. Pillman was like top of his game. He was so awesome, like so ahead of his time.
Right.
And like this was it was definitely a work ratey match. Again, we've talked about this before. You have to look at it through 95 lenses.
Yeah.
It was a work rate match for 1995.
Absolutely.
Like once you see Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn, and all the stuff that followed that, it changes everything. But like for this time period, this would have been like, oh god damn, these guys are working so hard.
Right.
Like even they're doing one of the things I noted, like even when they're doing wrist locks and like arm holds, it's not a rest hold. They're transitioning from one arm thing to another. It's actually selling that you're trying to do something to injure the guy's arm.
Yeah.
So they're like doing, they'll flip over and put an arm bar on, then transition that to like a wrist lock, and it's just constant movement which does, like you said, it can hide some of the like probably lack of character stuff that a 19-year-old Alex Wright hasn't been able to build yet.
Again, he was clearly like he was a face here. He came down to the ring as a face, so like he would eventually be a heel. But this was just here's Alex Wright.
Yeah,
I want him on TV.
It's like a showcase for the guy's talent.
Yeah,
and Heenan was calling it like Wright was the babyface that he didn't want to win.
Yeah,
and I know Wright caught shit back then from all the old curmudgeon bastards that like thought he was getting pushed too fast or whatever, because that's what wrestling was like back then. Right. Still is to a degree, but it was way worse back then. But like I don't think he deserved negative. I think it was Wright to push him. The guy was 6'5", like. Yeah. Incredible.
I'm more surprised that they missed with him.
Yeah.
Like he was so good he was like a fan favorite on Nitro for
he was
a long
over
time.
all the time doing a stupid dance. It was a stupid gimmick, still got it over. Like then they changed. I remember they changed him then to Alexander, right? Mm-hmm. And they gave him the like Matrix sunglasses and changed his hair, and that just like tanked the rest of his career.
Yeah.
He should have been one of the greats.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, 19, looking like this.
Yeah.
And like carrying himself the way he did.
Then he had to go wrestle a bunch of matches like Disco Inferno in the next few years.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's a couple matches. Yeah,
the worst.
That's what I was saying. He did have a couple cool spots where Alex Wright, so he's on the ring apron outside the ring, and he's got Pillman, who is inside the ring, and he snaps suplex. I've never seen a suplex to the outside this fucking fast in my life.
I was trying to think about it. This was the suplex you said from inside the ring to the outside, right?
Alex Wright standing on the like where you're standing if you're in a tag team match, like an outside the ring apron, and Pillman's inside, and they're hooked over the top
to the floor,
to
right?
The floor.
Yes. I was like, had that happened in wrestling before 1985? Because you don't even see that shit very much at all now. A straight like vertical suplex from inside, and like it was like a snap suplex. Yeah. But even any kind of vertical suplex from the inside to the outside, that's just not something you see.
No.
Unless it's through a table or something that's going to take the brunt of the bump.
Right.
This was just a straight snap suplex to the goddamn floor.
Yeah.
And with those little 95 pads and stuff out there.
Yeah,
it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Other note was both of these guys throw insanely good drop kicks.
Yeah, yes, they do.
There were plenty. They had a little bit of psychology here, nothing insane. Brian Pillman plays possum with a knee injury for a second. Alex Wright goes for some kind of top rope attack, and Brian Pillman drop kicks him out of the goddamn sky.
It was beautiful. Like right on the chin.
Yeah, it looked fucking great.
Maybe it was like the Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Like one of those.
Absolutely.
Like the moonsault into the,
Yeah, the timing looked great on it. Aside from that, like it's like Alex Wright, you overshot the runway on a dive, but like who fucking cares?
19.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
I initially wrote like, oh, this is not that great of a match. Like right at the like 2 or 3 minutes in, I'm like, oh, not that great. He's pretty green, but you're watching it, you're just like, I'm still super goddamn entertained because what they are doing well, they're doing very well.
Like it's not a ton, like you said, not a ton of psychology, of course, because he's a child.
Yeah.
But like what they're doing is like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this was and what an opener.
Yeah, it's perfect for like what I'm usually looking for a pay-per-view opener is get your young, like athletic people out there and get the people energized.
Yeah.
And maybe not something that's got a ton of psychology or emotional investment.
No.
Because then you're not tiring that part of your crowd out.
Also, too, if you're coming off of 3 fucking dark matches, none of which sounded exciting in the slightest. This is just like a shot of adrenaline.
This would be considerably better than I said my note I made on Wright was he reminds me of at this point is in modern terms is Coyle Fletcher. Like 6'5", athletic, super young.
Yeah.
But better than he should be at this age kind of dude. Like you forget how tall Alex Wright is because when I always thought of him, looking back, it's because of this work rate kind of stuff and because of the dancing.
Yeah.
But then you're reminded when you see him that he's like 5 inches taller than Brian Pillman there. He's like deceptively tall. They did something that made me giggle because they just did this in wrestling all the time. They were panning the crowd and they just panned to 2 women, like in their late 20s, early 30s, normal women. And Shivani goes, "Oh my goodness." Like he was a man who'd been in Attica for the last 15 years, and these are the first 2 women he's ever seen. It was just a couple of regular ladies.
Yeah.
And his reaction was just like insane.
Yeah.
It was like Joey Styles. Oh my God.
No, like you were saying, after surgery, he's probably, I don't know.
He's probably all fucked up.
This is also the match where they announced that there's the contest to see if your father looks like a pro wrestler.
They love those contests.
Shivani lays it out, and Bobby Heenan could not give less of a fuck. He's just like, okay.
He's smart, and he knows this is dumb shit nobody cares about.
That made me laugh.
Heenan's Bengals thing was funny too.
Bengals.
Pillman played for the Bengals, which they always mentioned back in the day. But Heenan said the Bengals then since have said that they would have won more had they traded him. And Shivani's like, I don't think they actually said that.
Yeah, cheap heat. The finish was so Pillman was going for like not a Hurricane Rana, but like he was doing something flippy where he was trying to end up with a sunset flip.
Oh, is it the head scissors thing?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen this before.
It was like a backwards head scissor.
It was like he caught him.
Yeah.
Like, how did I have it? Combo.
So it's kind of like
I'm sorry, I'm slowing it down.
No,
But he goes for like a head scissors, like a side head scissor kind of thing,
with the intention of turning it into a sunset.
Yeah,
flip, right.
So but he caught him, right? So it was like he caught him in midair, kind of.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And so Pillman's getting in all the right positions here, and Alex Wright just kneels down, and pins him.
Yeah, drops him into like a pinning combination.
Yeah,
whatever.
But after the match, they both shake hands. It's very friendly afterwards. Like it's good. Good match.
Yeah, the only thing I would change, like essentially, is the stuff we talked about. Like, make Pillman heel and do some story.
Yeah.
But as for an opener with a 19-year-old kid, like, goddamn, great start.
There's matches with established guys in 2024 that I don't have as much fun watching that I did watching this match.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It just felt like a time capsule kind of match. Like, prior to, like, the obsession with luchadors and all that shit. Like, this is like, cool. Look at these acrobatic guys
these
going.
2 super athletic young guys.
Yeah.
The only real problem I have with it is whoever booked the show, maybe don't put these guys on before the next couple of things. The stark difference in watching these two young athletic guys with their working boots on.
Well, the only thing that would, it's like when you, like, all right, you're probably gonna get food poisoning from the sandwich you're about to eat. So let's get like some like nice. Let's get a nice appetizer in us before we get a fucking arm wrestling match. It's gonna make us want to just leave.
I would say more like I'm like I know that this enchilada is going to give me diarrhea, but I'm really going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the enchilada.
Yeah.
Alex Wright versus Lion Brand.
Yeah.
And then I have the diarrhea.
Yeah.
Arm wrestling with DDP.
That's fair. You know how I know we're hungry? So up next we had Dave Sullivan versus Diamond Dallas Page.
One, who the fuck is Dave Sullivan?
Well, he likes to go by Evad, apparently, whatever the fuck that means.
Eugene before Eugene is the vibe I got from him. He just seemed like a slow guy or something.
I just wrote he's kind of simple.
Yeah.
Simple Evad. Prior to so they're doing a couple packages to set this up in a backstage interview. So the package, DDP refers to himself as the International Big Arm Wrestling World Champion. It kind of made me laugh.
DDP's like notably not very, even when at the top of his career, he wasn't a body guy.
No.
He had the diamond stud. Because he wasn't a body guy.
Right.
He was a big talker because that's what he was. He was just like a tall, skinny dude.
Yeah.
Who pitched this arm wrestling thing that apparently from the video package seems like it was like a year-long program?
It lasted a long time.
Like, oh my God.
I also don't get the psychology of it. Like the other guy was a Max Muscle. Who should have been the guy doing the arm wrestling?
Yes.
Like DDP should have just been like his Don King.
His back was like 8 feet wide.
Big boy.
Yeah. He would just step on the other guy's toe or whatever.
He would. So that's the one thing I didn't understand. Like, to give DDP leverage, he would put his foot underneath DDP's.
Yeah.
And that would somehow give DDP leverage.
I'm not a pro arm wrestler, nor am I a physicist, but I can't think of a single way how that would help somebody.
I don't fucking know.
I do need you to say the DDP's competitor's name, and in the way of the master, if you could, please.
Evad? Oh. So DDP is going to face Dave Sullivan, who likes to be called Evad, who carries around a fucking, what does he carry around?
A rabbit.
A rabbit, that's right. Oh,
because my note from this was that the stipulation is apparently if DDP loses, this slow guy gets to fuck his wife. If DDP wins, the DDP gets to eat this guy's rabbit. I think because that's kind of what they insinuated.
That's what they implied. Yeah.
So
that's what I wrote. They win a date with the Diamond Doll, who is his
Kimberly
wife,
Page
Kimberly,
before she was Kimberly Page.
And you you ever some people you see and you're just like, oh my God, that's one of the most attractive people that has ever existed on earth. She's one of them.
She's unbelievable, and in mad respect for DDP because he was not successful at this time. Yet he's hadn't been over for 1 second of his career. No. He's a wrestling manager, and he was able to pull that lady with just his game. He must be real funny or charismatic. He's
got a pink Cadillac.
He's not very good looking either.
No, but she knew. Well, never mind.
Maybe she's the greatest scout of all time. She's like, I know when you're 45 years old, you're all of a sudden going to become the biggest babyface in WCW. after you do 600 shitty gimmicks that are all giant swings and huge misses, you'll hit on one that randomly makes you the biggest surprise babyface ever.
And then you go on to save lives.
Yeah,
I'll be gone by then.
I guess I'm cynical prick that I am. Maybe it's just that DDP's a great person because we know this. Hey, women must be in it for the money or looks. No, he's probably just a great guy and she recognized that.
Yeah.
We have talked about it literally every time we turn these microphones on. So
how
that's
wonderful
probably why.
It is. But backstage we have Dave Sullivan, who says he likes to be called Evad. I don't know how you get Evad out of Dave's. I'm looking at it right now. It's Dave backwards.
But
how did
why?
I not see that right now?
I don't understand anything about this guy. Is he Kevin Sullivan's brother or something?
He could be.
Because why is he on TV?
He'd be in the Dungeon of Doom if he was. Because that was the white.
This guy might have been even too shitty to He really seems like
credit where credit's due. Whatever character he's doing, he did it well.
I mean, he's going for it for
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure what it was though.
No,
And
like, but he was in it.
yeah.
This didn't like repulse me the way it like
It
when
confused
I see,
me.
But when I see Eugene now, like in 2024,
Oh
I'm
yeah. Because it's more on the nose. It's
This
more
was-
like I am doing a person
Yeah.
with a disability.
Yeah.
This guy just seemed like, I don't know.
Like he missed a couple math
Yeah,
classes.
yeah. He just got hit in the head with a baseball bat or something like.
Full-on lobotomy. But yeah, to your point, the as you mentioned earlier, if DDP wins, Ralph the Rabbit becomes Rabbit Stew.
Yeah. So it's fuck my wife, I eat your pet. In an arm wrestling match that gets about 45 minutes
It's long.
on a pay-per-view that probably cost $49.99.
So in the ring, it's wild. I have more notes about this than I do the fucking opening match.
Well, it's easier to make fun of and have notes
Yeah.
about something like this than just a really good wrestling match.
That's fair. So they're both in the ring. DDP tries to get Evad to leave and save himself the embarrassment of losing. We learn here that the rabbit, this little subtext, the rabbit was actually a present from the Diamond Doll.
Yeah.
When Evad was recuperating after being attacked by Vader and Ric Flair, which begs the question.
So much shit there. Like, what the fuck? Like, and then Jesus came down driving a monster truck, and
then Tom Hanks came.
Like, what's going on here?
And he brought sandwiches.
And they just throw it in like it's like a little aside. Like, well, the rabbit's here because it was a gift from Kimberly because of the that time that Ric Flair and Vader. Like, what's going on? Where are we at now? And this is all involving a wrestler I've never seen before in my life, like as a 40-plus year wrestling fan.
Normally, I would say what would help here is a video package, but we got a video package.
Yeah.
And you know who was nowhere in there? Ric Flair or Vader.
Yeah, no.
It would have explained it very well. So cool. So it's just showing that the Diamond Doll has a little bit of
Why does the Diamond
soft
Doll
spot.
have enough of a relationship with this rando guy that she would bring him anything, let alone a pet, to recover?
Here's a responsibility.
Yeah. Here, you're badly injured. Take care of this thing.
What does it eat? Here.
Doesn't matter. My husband's going to eat it
Yeah.
in 3 weeks anyway.
My husband's trying to pimp me out to everyone he arm wrestles on a fucking weekly basis. So they start to lock up a couple times, and DDP pulls away. And this gets a shocking amount of heat.
Well, yeah, it does. And also, the lead-in thing, the arm wrestling thing that broke this down, went on forever. Like, I'm still watching it right now. I had to like astrally project myself here to do the show because my real body is still watching this goddamn package of DDP beating a myriad of people he would never be able to beat in arm wrestling
Like
matches.
it was on par with the Clubber Lang part of Rocky Theater where he's just beating the fuck out of people. They lock up. Max Muscle is trying to give DDP some extra leverage by stepping so DDP could step on his foot. Bobby Heenan's. Oh, hang on. So Sullivan wins clean, by the way, like with no.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is fuck. Okay, I have like 8 thoughts going on at once.
He would have too, by the way, because he was bigger. Just
naturally,
he just looked physically like an arm wrestler.
And if we're supposed to believe, never mind, I'm not going to do that. So Dave Sullivan wins, and then the camera's real tight, and then there's fuckery apparently that we don't know about. And Bobby Heenan slides in. It's going to be the worst night of your life, honey. Which I thought was kind of funny. Apparently, and they're like trying. They're analyzing this thing.
They didn't know what the hell happened either.
like the
because they were like,
Kennedy
I think it was
assassination.
she was bumping him, and nobody knew. So
And they're doing it in a
maybe
way.
talk about this pre-show, guys.
They're doing it in a way where the crowd doesn't know that there was fuckery.
Yes.
So we're just like, oh,
It just looked like Dave Sullivan just crushed
Dave Sullivan's the winner. And Tony Schiavone is going on and on, like, oh, fuck, blah, blah, blah. That was the guy in the book depository. Like,
Yeah.
Wait, what? I just watched
Why do you
it.
want that rabbit to get eaten so bad, Shivani? What the hell's going on here? Like,
Fucking
you just
pain
made
meds,
him.
man. So apparently, and we learn this to be the case, someone bumped into DDP. Camera missed it entirely. And then afterwards, DDP shoving Max Muscle. And he's like, but they're all blaming the Diamond Doll. She did it. We don't fucking know.
Max Muscle, by the way, dressed like Bret Hart for some reason. Did you catch that? It's pink and black with the leaving the suspender thing.
Well, I mean, on this show, if we're going to rip off the fucking Ultimate Warrior, we might as well rip off Bret Hart, too. Neither are good. Bobby Heenan goes, she's going out with a moron and a rabbit. Lucky her. The replay shows Max Muscle is the one that caused it, despite what they say.
Yeah.
So he's the one that bumped into. It's probably going to lead into the greatest program WCW.
I'm sure. I believe we saw Max Muscle in DDP working in tandem on a pay-per-view that we've reviewed that came after this, too.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
thinking nothing came of it.
They patched it up, but they do. Mean Gene intercepts him on the ramp. And Mean Gene reminds DDP of the stipulations. DDP wants a do-over. He says that he and the Diamond Dollar are going to have a very, very long talk later because in his mind, she's the one that... And they're trying
95, so it's a continuation that he's going to smack his wife around.
Yeah, before she goes out.
Which he wouldn't. In real life, Diamond Dallas Page is actually a very good human being.
He's a terrific human being.
He did fuck up his promo here, his post-match promo, which I'm like, DDP became a better talker later, too.
What did he say?
He was all fired up, and he was like, we all know this is wrong because Diamond Dallas Page, is a 10-plex. Dave Sullivan is a 0. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I think he was trying to say 10 plus.
I got not. 10 plus out of it.
I rewound it multiple times. He says 10 plex, baby.
What the fuck's 10?
At least he didn't do "Good God," which was his catchphrase at this time. I don't know what he was going. I think I know what he was going for. Didn't come out that way.
That's okay.
Came into it with a lot of energy though, at least. So
well, he's very fired up. He just lost his what? But then I'm super concerned. For her.
For her character,
he's like, you go on a date with my wife. What does that mean?
It's the implication, right?
I know it's the implication. But then, at one point, either Heenan or Shivani is like, they're going to go to a movie. I think I might have said, Heenan might have said something about going to a movie. But also, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why are you arm wrestling? This isn't fucking over the top.
No idea.
You know what? That's probably why they did it. When was
yeah. I think you got it. I bet you it's within the month.
Yeah. Let's see. Over the top release.
Because Dave Sullivan.
That was in the
80. Well, maybe 89.
That was 87.
80. Oh shit, that's way earlier.
But
Dave Sullivan did have the thing going on.
But that's the cycle of hey, this is cool.
Yeah, it's wrestling.
Just old enough to be retro.
Yeah,
where people might have forgotten it, but
it's
people
a
who do
Stallone
remember
thing.
it.
So they wrestlers love it. Just a short match would have been a lot more interesting and entertaining to me than that 87-minute video package arm wrestling
between
thing.
These two,
and then an arm wrestling match that had a completely confusing finish.
Yeah.
Crowd was into it.
You know what would have been fun? Hulk Hogan versus Vader for the world.
Yeah, that would have been all right
for the world fucking championship.
Oh yeah. Or I don't know, a match with any of the luchadors that you have signed.
Yeah,
that are on there because it's 95.
95, they're there.
Gotten a bunch
That's
Psychosis
true.
and Rey Mysterio would have been okay.
Right.
Kid.
It would have also been better than this fucking trash ball. Sergeant Craig trash ball match. He's not a trash ball. He's a Marine.
He's kind of fucking working like he's a trash ball too.
He's working like he's super green, and he doesn't know. He's doing what he thinks he should be doing, and
you double booked him.
Yeah,
but
he had the same energy I noticed as Cena when he first came into SmackDown.
He was definitely working harder than useless ass Duggan. That dude, who does he know? He never does anything of value.
No.
He can't talk.
He won the first Royal Rumble.
Because he's big.
Yeah.
And he carries around a two-way, so he cheats all of his matches. Yeah. Babyface that cheats every time. I did give him this, but they mentioned it and then I looked it up. Both these guys served. Duggan served in the Marines, as did Sergeant Craig Pittman. And I was like, well, at least that's one up. One star in your guy's favor ahead of fucking stolen valor ass Sergeant Slaughter, who has pretended to be a serviceman in the military.
He was
for
on a cartoon
60 years. And
he was
never,
on a cartoon.
Yeah, never spent a moment in the military.
He was a G.I. Joseph.
He did a bunch of vignettes where he went to the cemetery, the national cemetery in DC, and was like, hand over heart for all the fallen. I'm like, you didn't serve, you stolen valor prick. Yeah. These guys both at least did.
Yeah.
So they could talk about it.
Also, it's funny now, too, that Sergeant Slaughter got really upset with Lacey Evans. We're back in 2024 now.
Yeah.
Because she is an actual veteran and wanted to do the female Sergeant Slaughter gimmick, basically. And
that's what fired me up about it. And now now I always do the comparison because of this thing you were talking about it specifically.
What a trash bag.
Piece of garbage.
Yeah. That's like me being pretending to be like a professional baseball player.
Yeah.
I am a professional
because you're putting your life on the line when you're military, man.
If you're playing third base, you're taking some fucking line drives. And then meeting a real baseball player, I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
How dare you portray yourself, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
As this
That's a great
thing.
analogy. I played a baseball player on television, you sack of shit. Sergeant Craig Pittman fought Hacksaw Jim Duggan for 8 minutes and 13 seconds. Like we said, Jim Duggan was supposed to be Marcus Bagwell. But his calves were hoity that day.
It still would have sucked. Jim Duggan can't do anything. Also, why does he wear trunks that look like adult diapers his whole career? Young to not to like, is he dead? He might be dead now. But young until at least when he had that shoot fight with Doink in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
He was still wearing the big, giant, tall diaper.
He switched
trunks.
to like bicycle shorts at some point, which was nice. He is very much alive. He's 70 years old.
Oh, that's way younger than I would have expected.
Yeah, 1954.
Because he looked about 55 in this match.
55 for a while. But yeah, the match is about as good as you thought it would be. Like I said, Sergeant Craig Pittman doesn't suck. He's definitely not good. He just like, I think if he trained and like went to character class, this guy would have been fucking something. Just
he
like
seemed kind of athletic
his
and
energy
like,
level.
He was bringing, like I said, like he was bringing the enthusiasm.
Dude, he
to
did
it.
something I never saw before, and this is what made me like turn on it. Because at first I'm just like, what the fuck is this? He misses a clothesline on Jim Duggan, and he jumps over the top rope, and he lands on both of his feet, and then has to pretend it was like this is bad,
like a bot,
and then fall down and sell it. I'm like, that motherfucker just.
Now that you mention it, that was super athletic.
It's like I can't believe that Jim Duggan is hanging with this guy right now.
Why is Jim Duggan the more over guy ever than dudes like this?
Also the USA chant when there's two fucking veterans.
Wait, one is a Marine, like an active or something. Like it doesn't work. Duggan.
No.
Shivani, like the thing I was talking about, the usually Jim Ross type of very thinly veiled disdain for something that's dog shit that they're watching. Shivani just says, this is very much a totally different match than the one we just saw. I was like, yeah, Tony, we could see that, buddy.
Shivani also had a good line. Heenan, again, 1-2 punch. Shivani goes, what did he say? I misquoted it. But he mentioned something about Bobby Heenan being in the service. He said you wouldn't last in the service one day, and Heenan goes, I'd be a general. I'd be an admiral in the Marines.
Yeah. Heenan also threw a barb out there, like in a more subtle way. Just this match is just happening. It's like the meat of the quote unquote action of the match, and Heenan just unprompted goes, just to mention, still to come tonight, we got Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ric Flair.
Because the match sucked. Like I'm giving the guy a lot of love here because
he put in the effort.
His enthusiasm.
I mentioned earlier, a few things on this show were like one person came with their work boots on, and the other one not so much. This was like the epitome of that.
One, yeah.
I just think Duggan's terrible too.
Like what's your favorite Hacksaw Jim Duggan match?
The one that I saw live probably in 1989 that we talked about because I was 9 years old.
Right.
It was probably
and you got to yell "Ho" in USA.
Yeah.
So the finish saw Sergeant Craig Pittman. He puts the code red, which is a cross arm bar. It's the Alberto Del Rio finisher. And Jim Duggan gets to the ropes and doesn't let go of the hold, so it's a DQ W for Jim Duggan.
He was like already in the ropes when he put the arm breaker on.
Yep.
And so like the ref's like, stop. And then he just didn't. There was a DQ.
What made this less sensical was he was working on Duggan's knee the entire match.
My next note was Duggan's limping around because he was working the leg for the entirety of the match. Yeah. And then he wins with an arm bar, or tries to win with an arm bar that he cinches in so single-mindedly that it gets him disqualified. Right. What a weird way to book the end of his match. And then Duggan, like, kind of celebrates after. He just got his ass beat, and then
he grabs a
for no reason.
He grabs a 2x4, swings at Sergeant Craig Pittman, and then he swings at a ref. Why the ref?
Yeah, because Duggan's an asshole.
And then the crowd goes fucking nuts for him.
Yeah, it's like Hogan at that time too. There was one other thing in the match that I did note that fits to what we're talking about right now. It was kind of a botch. Just because Pittman was like trying too hard. Pittman was like putting. What was it? Spinning toe hold. He was just putting a spinning toe hold on like prone Duggan because he had been working on the knee. Duggan like very just no effort like boops him in the face with a little kick that looked like nothing.
Yeah.
And Pittman like launched himself out of the ring like 1,000 miles an hour because he's working real hard.
Yeah.
But it looked insane because it was like a boop, and then this 280-pound man just goes flying out of the ring, and Duggan just corpses and starts laughing in the middle of the ring like. Take something serious, man. Why are you collecting a paycheck right now? Like,
I mean, just thank Marcus Bagwell's caps for you even getting a check on this show. So from not great to fucking awesome. We had a backstage promo with Mean Gene and the Blue Bloods.
The Blue Bloods are
my
so wonderful.
God. So the Blue Bloods consist of Earl Robert Eaton and Lord Stephen Regal.
Beautiful Bobby is a British aristocrat. I don't know why I don't remember this. You'd think Beautiful Bobby being a British aristocrat would be something that would stick in my memory.
I also had
Jesus Christ, it's awesome.
It didn't even dawn on me when he said his name. I'm like, Bobby.
I recognize it immediately because we've been watching so much of this stuff, and I love Bobby Eaton.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why is Bobby Eaton dressed up like a king?
It looked fucking great.
And then just they don't let him talk at all. I
wrote Regal's promo verbatim.
Yeah. Please do.
So Regal. So they're basically hyping up their tag team title match with the Nasty Boys later, and Lord Stephen Regal goes, let us put this situation like a little case in history. 1945.
Big swinger.
I couldn't believe he went this route. 1945, in May, Adolf Hitler sat next to Joseph Goebbels in the bunker, and he said, Joseph, I think we've blown it. And that's exactly what these two fat breads, these gutter snipes, have done. They have blown it. They do not realize what they've gotten themselves into. They are in for the thrashing of their lives. They have no concept of the pain, torture, and embarrassment they're going to receive at the hands of the two greatest noblemen that have ever graced this shore. Holy shit.
So this had to be like a bet he lost or a rib that he took and decided, somebody had to say, I bet you can't work Nazis into your promo about the Nasty Boys. Because the Hitler Goebbels thing, I'm like, what the fuck? I rewound it because it was kind of half paying attention. I'm like, did he just say Joseph Goebbels? Why is anybody talking about Joseph Goebbels right now? Me and Gene didn't react to it either. So it had to be some kind of a rib. Because why else would you? It was great. I loved it. But why else would you do that?
He went on. Mean Gene calls him out for attacking the Nasty Boys at Slamboree. A lot of shit happened on Slamboree that affected this pay-per-view.
I kind of felt for a couple times should I be watching Slamboree?
Yeah. Slamboree seems like a better show.
It was a great show.
Regal goes on to say, when you are in this country of decadence and debauchery and violence, where your children grow up in a violent society, sometimes violence is the only thing that gets people's attention. Myself and the good Earl, my learning colleague here, had to bring attention to ourselves. We have shown the world and we have shown WCW that there is no one better and no one more qualified for a shot at the tag championships. The only reason the Nasty Boys are the tag champions at the moment is because there isn't another team capable of beating them. That shows how pathetic the other teams here are in WCW, and believe me, it's only a matter of time before you have two gracious athletes as your champions.
So it was just a great regular promo that he just started off with a crazy Nazi reference in the beginning too. So he's just awesome. He's awesome.
I was blown away by how this was like the Quint monologue in Jaws. I was so fucking captivated.
Regal should have been one of the biggest stars of all time.
His mic works unparalleled.
Everything he does is awesome.
He's got Jake the Snake level fucking skills 100%. In this 1995.
Yeah, I was absolutely incredible. His facials too during the match, and then the in between stuff that we always talk about. Did you hear, by the way, at Kenny Omega on that stream that we had been discussing
back in 2024? Now,
back in 2024. He what he said was somebody asked him about what wrestling today is better than it ever was, and he said I wouldn't. It's different. He said the most important stuff to me that I think is missing from a lot of these guys, super athletic guys, is the in between the moves. And I was like, you're a listener, Kenny Omega, because we talk about that.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Thunder Pod, Kenneth Omega.
And I agree. You are the best Canadian wrestler of all time.
The balls on you. You're wearing pink
during this promo back in '95. Because obviously you can't have beautiful Bobby with his Alabama accent talking. He's doing this thing where he's staring off into the distance, trying to look regal, no pun intended, into this. And Mean Gene just keeps going what's up there? That was pretty funny, I thought.
That's a good point. I had not considered his accent. And Regal he
can't talk like an American really even, let alone do an accent. Shivani and Heenan had a good back and forth about that too, because Heenan was like, "Oh no, Regal, he did the genealogy. He looked back at Bobby Eaton's family tree history, and found out that his parents are part of British aristocracy." And Shivani's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, there's lots of people that are descendants of aristocrats were walking around in America, and Johnny's like, in Alabama?
We need pulled up Tony Schiavone on every show. Allegedly.
These guys are having a better show, I think, than I was giving them credit for to kick it off.
It's just different.
It's a bunch of funny stuff.
It's just different. Yeah. It's like how you would actually sit and talk about.
Yes.
You know, like something like you're at a bar watching a sports game or something like that. We had Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry versus Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck with Colonel Tom Parker up next. It went for 8 minutes and 39 seconds.
I love me some Harlem Heat. And I love Sister Sherry with Harlem Heat as well.
Yeah.
It's a good combo.
Yeah, and the way this came together, we kind of mentioned it came together on the pre-show, on the main event pre-show. Colonel Tom Parker and Sister Sherry are having a standoff, and Colonel Tom Parker go, let's just go ahead right now. Let's set this match right now. Well, I'm telling you, we want it. You can set it. We're going to have it. In the future, when you come out here and you talk to me, you might ought to realize I'm the same status as an American legend here, you know. Let me tell you something, young lady. You just got off the farm yesterday. From the way you're acting, you're probably yearning for the companionship of a fine Southern gentleman. You know what? I'm going to fix that. And then he grabs her like it's Casablanca, and like he just kisses her. And
very assaulty.
Yeah, and Sherry, like we mentioned, just fucking pops him right in the jaw.
Well, not a woman that I would fuck with like that, even if we're 1995.
Not at all.
Because she lays it in.
Also, too, I'm not sure if you paid attention when Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck were coming out. Their theme song's pretty fucking good.
Oh, no. I didn't pay attention.
I perked up.
The only one I noticed Harlem Heat because I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good one because it's the same one that Booker used forever. But like,
it's timeless.
So what kind of song was it?
I can't even describe it. WCW did really well with generic rock entrances like that back in the day.
Pillman at the start of the show had the best like butt rock thing I've ever heard in my life. Like I said this, I didn't mention it when we were talking about the match, but I'm like, this song could have been entitled "Butt Rock the Musical." That's what it was.
The match. So there were a couple instances on this pay-per-view where motivation dictated the character in the match correctly. This is one of them. The other one is Macho Man at the end. But Harlem Heat's pissed off. Because their lady was smited earlier in the show.
They do good pissed off.
And they attack instantly before the bell even rings. And they're just the visual here is fucking great because Stevie Ray and Booker T are fucking enormous.
My note was they look like the starting defensive ends for the Raiders.
My God! So when they're laying
and they're fighting two guys, they look like recently retired longshoremen. So it stands out.
One of them looked like a Bunkhouse Buck. He looks like a legit prospect.
Yes.
Like he left his pan for his gold panning in the
knowing
back.
what I know about, especially Dick Slater too, and also Booker T. What we've seen, my other thought was if the ring were mic'd up too well, the N-word would be thrown around for different reasons by all four guys in this match. For sure.
You mean no contest?
Yeah.
But it ended up not being a no contest because the bell did eventually ring. Another thing that made me laugh, Stevie Ray has a T-shirt on under his bondage gear. It looked very off-putting.
It did. That's some of the WCW. It's always some like little weird stuff like that where like WWF at the time would have had some kind of like quality control person being like, Stevie, get rid of the fucking T-shirt. What are you doing? Yeah. Like, we're going on TV.
Yeah. Maybe it was his pump cover. Maybe he just wasn't ready to take it off yet. I see guys like that at the gym all the time.
Or like The Rock, he just had titty surgery and you doesn't want to show it.
That's true. Maybe that's the case.
Booker T, his whole career, even when he like WWF and WWE, he's a very kick-based offense. And he's a great wrestler, but his kicks to me always look like he doesn't. Like he's got sand in his boots and he's not sure where his feet are going to end up. When he's like they're heavier than they should be or something. Yeah. They just go flying all over the place.
Most of his offense is kicks.
Yeah, and it's like crazy. Yeah. Like I'm not sure where this is ending up. So
we'll see.
Like hopefully even when it goes well.
Even when he does the Harlem Hangover, which he spoiler alert, he does it later.
It's an awesome move. That I'm sure he got rid of because it's too dangerous
but
for him.
Never, ever looked like how you're describing it, like he was confident it was going to go.
He's just guessing. He's like, I'm hoping it's going to land. And like, it could have been tailbone breaking this guy's nose. Could have been heel of my foot knocking teeth out. Like it was,
turning his body and breaking his own hip. Too much.
I think that's probably why I stopped, was the breaking his own hip part.
That's
because it's a very dangerous move for like a 285-pound man to be doing.
A regular top rope leg drop is tough.
Yeah, it's in case anybody at home hasn't seen it. What the Harlem Hangover is just a front flip off the top rope leg drop.
Yeah,
from Booker T, who's a legit 6'5", 280.
Big boy. I also wrote Booker T apparently has always been fucking awesome because he's just so good.
I love Harlem Heat as a tag team too. Yeah. Like they're very legit seeming at all times. I said if my other thing is Bunkhouse Buck doing the thing that I hate, and every wrestler except for Big Bill wearing the blue jeans in the match. Yeah. And I said, if Bunkhouse Buck doesn't currently have a little tiny baggie of white powder in the pocket of his jeans while he's wrestling this match, I'll eat my hat. They're very old school wrestling duo, these two.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Slater going on to later like stab his own wife in the chest with a butcher knife too.
Jesus.
Yeah. Good guy.
Also, too, let's not kid ourselves. The greatest blue jeaned wrestler in history was the British Bulldog.
Yeah, tucked into his boots.
Yeah, and this is the one they mentioned on commentary that something has happened earlier with Hulk Hogan and Vader. We do not see that video yet, but they go, we'll get more to that later. And we're also going to hear a statement from
shit is more mysterious than Kaiser Sose throughout this entire.
Apparently, Nick Bockwinkel is the fucking president or something at this time.
Yeah, they mentioned that 2 or 40 times.
Yeah. The finish was actually clever. It was very entertaining. So
made the ref look like a total asshole, but the people involved did it well.
Yeah. So Stevie Ray and Dick Slater are fighting on one side of the ring. They're distracting the ref. Booker T rolls up Bunkhouse Buck into a small package. Colonel Parker gets in the ring and he pushes both of them, so Bunkhouse Buck is now covering small packaging Booker T.
It's like the small package roll move that they do these days, like. To get a pop out of the crowd where you roll and you roll and you roll, except these were forced rolls by managers.
Absolutely. The ref is still very distracted. But on the other side of the ring, Booker T is like
there's so much shit happening behind him.
Waving his hand.
There may as well have been like a circus walking. And he's just like, I gotta pay real close attention to this here.
Right.
Like, the rings bouncing, you can feel like.
Yeah, that's one that never I understood. Like, how do you not feel these fuckers coming in?
Yeah.
Like, I could see your body shaking.
Like 6 things that happened that all made
There's literally twice as many people behind him than there are in front of him. But he's so preoccupied with Stevie Ray.
Maybe he was saying the N-word, and he was like, we can't say that on TV. Stop saying that.
It's not going to be a no contest, I promise. And Booker T's calling for Sister Sherry to come in for a while. And Sister Sherry comes in the ring, and she pushes Booker T back over, so he is now covering Bunkhouse Buck. And Booker T, this is when the ref decides to snap out and go do his fucking job, and this is where he counts for the 3.
I don't know who was, if anybody was babyface here, so I don't know if a good guy or bad guy. Nope. I was cheering for Harlem Heat because they assaulted Sherry, so I'm like, okay, I'll pull for these guys. Heenan, another kind of shot, it was like, people here really don't care who wins this match. And I was like, no, they don't. No, they don't, Bobby.
He's not wrong. So
did you see the slobber thing that Stevie Ray did mid-match? I forgot to mention.
No.
So like mid-match, Stevie Ray's like trying to put a leg lock on or something. They do a kind of a tight shot on his face, and what is he? He yells. He yells, "Shut up, sucker!" And while he's yelling it, like just tons of spit is flying out of his mouth. And then after he does this, like he's on camera the whole time, so he doesn't have an opportunity to like put anything in his mouth. He yells, "Shut up, sucker!" And like 8 ounces of spit go flying out of his mouth. And then he spits, and like as much spit comes out of his mouth as like when Triple H does his thing where he drinks the water and spits. And I'm like, why is Stevie Ray producing more saliva than like a rabid wolf in the middle of this match?
Shot in the dark. Guess here, did he have dental work done prior?
You made like 45 minutes prior?
One thing that happened in this match, Tony Schiavone's yelling at Bobby Heenan for being biased.
Yeah.
And then when the match ends, Bobby Heenan says nothing, and Schiavone is urging him to give a reaction, and Heenan's pouting because he was told not to speak because he only speaks when he's being biased. It's very funny.
They did take. This is where I took the note that they made it a point to talk about like 3 other pay-per-views, like right at this point in the mid pay-per-view. I think that's where, yeah. Because we got the Flair promo.
That's
now.
not so. Not yet. We have Eric Bischoff interviewing Nick Bockwinkel.
Oh, that's
in the
right.
main
I just
event.
didn't take a note for this
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't give a shit.
Well, this was supposed to be the announcement that we're supposed to get an announcement from Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
And then as he's giving the announcement, by the way, Eric Bischoff, who is not stated as being Eric Bischoff yet, the way that we would know him to be. They just said Nick Bockwinkel was interviewed, and you're just like, oh, that's like watching like how Shawn Michaels like super kicked Ty Dillinger.
Yes.
And you're just like, you don't know that until you know who the
There
fuck
was
Ty-
there was a security guy that I was trying to figure out for the life of me. I couldn't, but it was a security guy. It was a black dude, big tall guy, and I was like, I've seen him wrestle. I don't know where, but yeah, same kind of deal.
It was almost. So while Nick Bockwinkel's being interviewed, Vader comes out, shoves Nick Bockwinkel, says he's tired of you, and then fucking Hulk Hogan comes out, and he let's see, Hulk Hogan, he makes the save. So Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart, I should say, come out, and Hulk Hogan beats down Vader. They brawl, and to hold back Hulk Hogan, out comes Sting, Jim Duggan, and Dave Sullivan to pull Hogan away.
So Dave Sullivan's got to be somebody's. By the way, I'm gonna charge that, and then you get video for the last part of the show too.
Yeah.
I'll just cut this. Dave Sullivan's got to be somebody's cousin, right? It's got to be Kevin Sullivan's boy or something, because he's involved with a lot of big ass names here.
Yeah. It's just he was like the SAT question answer. Like which one of these doesn't belong?
Yeah, yes.
Hulk Hogan,
Yes.
Sting, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, or Sullivan.
Well, really, Sting, because he's a good wrestler.
It's true. It depends how the question is
That'd
phrased.
be my smart ass answer on the SAT.
So after they do this quick recap, we have Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone with Nick Bockwinkel, and he's going to give a statement. Bockwinkel can't remember the name of the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And he asks...
It's not great when your only job really is to promote.
No. And Schiavone mouths, it's Bash at the Beach. And once he says it and keeps going, Schiavone smirks to Heenan and rolls his eyes. It's very funny. But the big announcement is for Bash at the Beach, we're going to get Vader and Hulk Hogan in a cage for the world title.
Yeah, Bockwinkel in a cage or something. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that they couldn't put it on the show for everyone in attendance.
Yeah, that they teased is going to happen kind of at this show. And now they're announcing
prior to the show.
Not only is it not going to happen here, it's going to happen in a way cooler way than you were even expecting.
It's fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. Backstage now we have the Mean Gene Ric Flair promo. It was a Ric Flair promo.
Ric Flair, he just knocks out A+ promos like it is nothing. It's no problem.
Yeah, he's hyping the match, and I started writing it down. I'm just like, this is just a very good promo.
Just a Flair promo.
It's a Flair promo.
It's great. Got me very excited for the match.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
He's undeniable. Younger Ric Flair, older Ric Flair needs to sit a couple plays out.
Yeah, the last 20 years, that's a different. Father Time is he's undefeated, as they say. But Flair in his prime, which was insanely long, by the way, Ric Flair's prime goes from 1971 to 1999 or something. Every one of these promos, it's just amazing, flawless, not just sound good, but does what a promo is supposed to do and gets me to want to watch the match always. He's just awesome at it.
I don't think that's what promos are for anymore. I agree.
It's not
No.
really.
I agree with you. I'm just making another thought where, if you watch modern wrestling, they don't have to talk people in the building anymore, and I think that's damning to create. That's why all the best promos are from when houses mattered.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I get so excited when somebody like Will Ospreay, that's what he's doing. He is doing the talk you into the house. God.
I'm just having
he's one of the very few that's still doing that. You're right. Almost nobody does it. It's all in service of a story.
Yeah,
pretty much across the board. And very rarely you get Will Ospreay telling,
"You
bruv, that we're gonna get the best match in the world, bruv."
Right,
and you believe it.
Yeah.
And that's what Flair was always doing. Was
talking people into the building.
You want to see this shit?
It's not a thing. It's just it shifted its definition of what it is.
It's a good observation, Dave. Speaking of promos, I heard today, and it made me very happy.
Are we back in 2024?
Yeah, back in 2024.
Okay.
Bret Hitman Hart had his own rating scale for wrestlers. Also a 3-part rating scale, a 1 through 10 3-part rating scale. His 3 parts were look, promo, in-ring. He gave himself a 7 look, an 8 promo, and a 10 in-ring. I think he underrated himself on both look and promo a little bit.
Beautiful, man.
The only wrestler he ever gave a 10-10-10 to.
Is it Macho Man?
Randy Macho Man Savage. The same guy that was the only 10-10-10 on my scale. So I am as smart about wrestling as Bret the Hitman Hart.
Is that why you're wearing pink today?
No, Bret got this from me. I wore pink first.
Yeah.
And then Bret, that's when he changed. If you watch his like Calgary Stampede days, he wore like green and blue and shit like that.
He did wear
He saw
blue
me as a
even
baby wearing pink and thought that looks badass and started wearing pink.
I like my favorite part of this story is that your father put you in pink as a child on the south side of Chicago in an Irish neighborhood.
Well, he just knew what a badass I would be, so that I could pull it off.
Yeah,
Like,
careful, man. He wets his pants. You didn't have to wet your pants for this next match because you could have got up and comfortably gone to have a bathroom break because we had a television title defense here. It was the Renegade with Jimmy Hart versus
Arn.
versus 36-year-old Arn Anderson.
No, 39. Always 39. Arn Anderson here, 39 years old, as always.
They went 9 minutes and 7 seconds. I wrote the Renegade.
They did something for 9 minutes.
I wrote that the Renegade is the Mr. Pibb to the Ultimate Warrior's Dr. Pepper, but you said it better, where he was the Goebbels.
Yeah, they're both. That's a given him. Both of those things are too much credit for this guy because he sucks.
You know who he actually looks like? I had to Google the guy's name. His name is Abadidi. He's the big wrestler from Streets of Rage.
Okay, yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like where you go into like a caged arena, and I'm like, oh, it's the Ultimate Warrior, and it's like clearly the Ultimate Warrior. But this guy looks
Japanese
more
rip-off version. Yeah,
but this guy looks more like that
dude.
Yeah.
Did you notice that, like, when the way they shot the match, they were trying to obscure his face for a bunch of it? Like they kept shooting him weird. It was the way the match was shot was kind of weird, and I didn't understand why at first. And I'm like, why does the camera work different for this match than it is for the rest of the show? And I realized it was because they try not to show his face because they're still trying to trick some people into thinking he's the same guy.
Okay, so that problem's twofold here. One, the Ultimate Warrior is known for face paint, so we can't do a direct dupe. Also, he's wearing fucking face paint.
Yeah.
So, like, you would want to get some shots of that R on his cheek, which inevitably goes away.
He also was a totally different body type, too. They're both big, but that doesn't mean that you have the
he's
same...
like Abadidi from Streets
exactly.
of Rage.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. There were 2 matches on this card that, like, pissed me off, and this was one of the 2. Yeah. Because of... Arn Anderson. I'm like, I know now in 2024 that Arn Anderson only had so many bumps in his body.
Yeah.
And he gave a bunch of them to this asshole in this match.
He sat patiently in the corner at some point for a long time. Just like, wait.
Kept selling, like, facially, too, for this guy. Like, putting him over, trying to make him look as good as he can. This guy can't move.
No.
Couldn't bump, couldn't move.
He was able to hold his shoulders up really good, though.
He has a worse Samoan drop than Nia Jax that he had to get to, by the way. Not a normal way because he's not strong enough, evidently, even though he's giant and jacked.
Yeah.
He had to have Arn Anderson, like, lay across the turnbuckle to do it, and then he still sloppily dropped him like Nia does.
He had to dumbwaiter Arn Anderson up onto his shoulders.
Yeah.
This was his first of many title matches, the Renegade. And a minor up note here, Four Horsemen theme song is top 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always forget it exists until I watch these.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you're like, oh, this is wonderful.
Like, I would, if I had to, like, have a Django moment where I'm, like, walking for the big final fight, I think I'm playing the Four Horsemen music.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. My thought was when Arn was coming out, and that music was playing, it looked like such a badass. My like first thought was, if this were a shoot fight between these 2 guys, the way it would go down was Arn would just open-handed slap this asshole, like until like 15 or 16 times until he just like started crying and my ears all fucked up. I quit. Yeah. And Arn would be like, I thought so, motherfucker, and then just like walk out without ever taking off his like sweats.
Right.
So that I got real mad when the match played out the way that it was booked to play out.
Yeah.
Because Arn looked like a big pussy against this.
Yeah. He got squashed by somebody basically my size. And that if you're not subscribed to our Patreon and you're not watching the video, I am average at best. I am not television champion material.
You are much more impressed. You strike a much more impressive figure than this asshole that
I'm gonna start painting,
Arn Anderson had to bump for.
I'm going to start painting a big D on my eye in case you forget what my initial is. The finish saw, as we alluded.
I have some more thoughts.
Oh,
After one
trying to race through this
of several renegade botches, Bobby Heenan comes out with a he's unorthodox. I'll give him that because he just fucked up the move.
Yeah.
It must be hard to prepare yourself for a guy like this because he just keeps screwing everything up. And Bobby Heenan's a genius. There is a back and forth between Schiavone and Heenan that made me like get angry at Schiavone because Heenan's like always treading on thin ice out here, talking about Arn Anderson like taking a risk or something, and Schiavone's like, "No, you tread water. You can't." I'm like, "You can tread on thin ice too." It's a word that can be used in multiple ways,
right.
Like, but he's like stuck to it for like 30 seconds. So I was like, I need to go back in time and slap Tony Schiavone. But now I know that he was just probably high on Oxy or whatever.
They were probably also bored to fucking tears.
Yeah, or angry like I was.
Or angry like
because they know and love and respect Arn Anderson
Yeah.
and see what he has to humiliate himself in this match, like with this jerk off that Hulk Hogan brought in. Did the lead evidently the lead into this to like Renegade's debut? Not this match, but like the lead into the his debut. It was just a straight up insinuation that it was the Ultimate Warrior. It was Hogan saying like, "Oh, the guy that I need to, I never avenged my loss to or whatever." And then they just showed this asshole like in silhouette with tassels on his arms and stuff. So they just were like saying more so than even when when AEW brought in CM Punk that like, get ready, the Ultimate Warrior is coming. And then like, I'm no Warrior fan, but at least the guy had like charisma or whatever. This guy's got absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, what a pussy Hulk Hogan is.
Yes, he's the worst.
Like I lost. I lost in a fake fight, and I'm just gonna
Got to get my win back. I'm not going to put over Shawn Michaels, the greatest of all time.
We're back in 2024 now. Shawn Michaels tried to like dampen how ridiculous SummerSlam was when he fought Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you saw that, where he's like, people forget I was bumping like that for everybody.
Yeah,
back in 1995.
I've heard him say it a few times, and I'm like, no.
He's like, I just did 1995 Shawn Michaels, and I bump like that for everybody. I'm just like, come on, man.
It's okay. You could tell us. We all think he's an asshole too. Heenan had a good one too. He's like, Heenan just shows zero respect for Renegade here, like throughout the match.
Yeah,
you could like taste it in the air. Like, I don't like this person, not the character, not the wrestler. This human being, I think, is worthless. Heenan's like, have you heard this guy talk at all? Does he talk? And Giovanni's like, he did an interview with Mean Gene once. He's like, so it's English. So he's from here, I guess. This made me giggle again. Heenan implies that he and Jimmy Hart used to engage in like a pseudo slave trade with their stables of wrestlers back in the day. Because Heenan's talking about back when he was a manager, and he's like, yeah, Jimmy Hart and I, we'd sell our guys to each other. And Shivani's like, you'd sell your guys to each other? He's like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, slave trade. Heenan,
right,
nice.
Right.
Jimmy Hart, is he just a Hogan sycophant?
Of course.
Because like him and Colonel Parker manage every wrestler in WCW. They're on television more than the ring is.
Right.
Like, it's Viva La Raza. Bobby Heenan, mid-match when this asshole's trying to be intimidating, Heenan shoots in with, looks a little bit like Fabio, don't you think? Like, just cutting his legs out from under him, as he should, because this guy sucked.
It's the kind of commentary that when you're watching a ball game, and your home, the home broadcast team, that they're down by 15 runs, and they just have to entertain themselves to get through the beginning.
It's good call. It's like it's when Al Michaels is calling a Thursday night football game between like the Jets and the Jags, and they both are terrible, and it's like 6-3 in the third quarter. So Al Michaels just starts talking about like how much money he lost gambling on the Masters or something. That's what Heenan is doing in this match. Heenan did do that's a choke. That's a sleeper hold thing that I talk about before that I never understood.
Right.
I still to this day do not understand. Shivani had... Oh, yeah, okay. Shivani and Heenan had a back and forth where Shivani's like, he was getting exacerbated, and he's like, you know what? I'm not even going to argue with you. It is a waste of time. And Heenan's like, you're right, it is, because I always win, right. Which was good. I really did now kind of like these guys. Arn Anderson hits a spine buster, which is the first thing that makes anybody in the crowd react at all. They fucking erupt. And then Renegade just kicks out like immediately on 2. Sure. So totally no selling. The only move that was over in the like whole goddamn match,
right?
Which was way too long. And then I guess that it was the one thing that would like match up to Ultimate Warrior. The Warrior no sold everybody's shit too. But Arn's Spinebuster looked it was absolutely fabulous. And then we got the Nia Jax-esque Samoan drop into a splash.
Yep. And that top rope splash resulted in a new television champion.
Yeah. So Heenan earlier in the match said, big night for Renegade. It's his first title match, and millions and millions of people watching this. 90,000, Bobby. Coolest part of the match, though, outside of the spine buster, Big Show looking like a badass in the crowd.
It was his second appearance on
I did not know that's how he was introduced until this.
So it was, we covered it where his first appearance was, I believe, the previous pay-per-view, and he was on the rampway when Hulk Hogan was walking out. Like, he's just there in the crowd, right? And this is going to turn into, he's kayfabe, Andre the Giant's son, and he's he's like following Hulk Hogan to avenge.
He looks like a bad motherfucker here.
He's got a giant fucking leather coat on and shit.
Took a swipe at Jimmy Hart that the production team missed completely.
Yeah. So the first time we saw him was Slamboree, which was May 21st of the same year. So about about 3 weeks ago.
That super eventful show that we've already mentioned 6 times there.
I'm going to just watch it for enjoyment afterwards. But yeah, the announce team is still just like, who the fuck is this guy? And they have a nice tight shot of him. And if you look around, he went alone. That's my favorite part of like wrestlers in the crowd. Like they're like, he paid all that money for that ticket to sit front row by himself.
To try to grab Jimmy Hart.
It's a minor down. But, so that was a match.
Barely.
Yeah, well, barely from all the fucking way. A tag title match was next with the Nasty Boys versus the Blue Bloods.
I really enjoyed the super 90s-esque video package they threw together to promote this match, too. It was well done.
Yeah.
It was very 90s and like a what's the word? John Waters movies.
Apothecary.
We'll go with that. Like it felt dated, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like it made me feel nostalgia for that era because it's so super 90s.
Apothecary tables have
kitsch is the word I was trying to come up with.
Yeah.
Apothecary is a better word, though.
No, it's just a different thing. They have small drawers. Like you can have a kitschy table that is an apothecary table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Apothecary is kind of a kitschy job.
Yeah.
If you are that person that makes potions and stuff.
See? See what we did?
Something in a Wes Anderson movie or something.
I'm thinking of, I think Phoebe Buffet. There was an episode revolving an apothecary table. So the package you're referring to it kind of sets up why we are supposed to give a shit about this. A couple weeks ago, the Blue Bloods, before Slamboree. It was the main event before Slamboree. Main event is the show. It's like the pre-show for Slamboree. The Blue Bloods attacked the Nasty Boys. And then later that night, the Nasty Boys win the tag titles at Slamboree from Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
And then the following event, which I believe is WCW Saturday Night, Blue Bloods and Nasty Boys had a non-title match. And then they had another match the week after. And it's in that match that Harlem Heat interfere and causes a DQ.
It's a little bit of overbooking going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But they did explain it well, though.
They're keeping everyone contained, which if you listen to every other podcast, I love when they keep small little communities of stories.
Pods.
Pod, yes. It's more correct. I wrote the match, or the crowd is just up for this.
Yeah.
The Nasty Boys are over. Like Rover.
As they should be. Because as we've discussed, the Nasty Boys apparently fucking rule.
They're so good.
They cut a promo right before the match, too. It made me realize that we need the term geeks to come back into use because it's a good one when you're talking about like other geeks. And this is where I realized that that Nastyville probably predated Dudleyville, so I think that might be a ripoff. And Gene Okerlund, nationalistic man that he is, was talking about the Blue Bloods and was asking Knobs a question about them, and he says they're tea sipping. I'm like, is that an insult? I don't know what that means, other than they're British, even though one guy's from Alabama. But it was funny.
Alabama man.
But Nasty Boys both cut very, very 90s, but good 90s angry wrestler guy promos.
Yeah, I missed that entirely. I think I might have skipped over it.
It's exactly what you'd think. It was, this couple of pencil neck geeks, we're gonna like that stuff.
I see.
I did not know that Skaggs was as good a promo. I've heard Knobs do promos a bunch of times. I don't remember Skaggs doing. I mean, it's basically the same promo, but he's also very good at them.
Right.
They're great.
Yeah, they're
great at everything.
Good. And again, the motivation. I said it was only in 2 matches. It's in this one too.
Yeah.
They're all 4 of them are brought. So Harlem, Nasty Boys come out, Harlem Heat comes out, or whatever the order is. No, Harlem Heat comes out first. Nasty Boys come out, and then they start brawling. Before the bell rings, they're brawling to the outside. They're brawling up the ring.
It was like 5 minutes of
up the ramp and everything.
Bell brawl.
They get back in the ring. Both of the Blue Bloods get a pit stop, which is where they just rub the opponent's face on somebody's armpit.
And then Regal sells it better than I've ever seen anybody sell facial in wrestling.
I said Regal looks like Joffrey in Game of Thrones when he realized he drank poison.
100%. He was making his puke face was making me feel like I had to puke.
It was the greatest.
It's beautiful.
No, it was fucking great.
All 4 of these guys can fucking go.
This is a great match. Saw something in this match I don't think I've seen since this match. Diving knee drop from the top rope.
Loved it. Same note. I'm like, that's a great move. It must be one of those things that we now know leads to reconstructive knee surgery after you do it 10 times or something. Because I can't remember seeing it in the last 15 years or whatever.
And it was like,
it's a great looking move.
And it's plausible and chop a fucking knee on
something.
It was
like, I'm going to mention it now just because this reminds me, I'll probably forget. In the main event, Flair does the thing that always looks great, but you don't see it anymore, where picks up Macho Man and drops his knee on the guardrail.
Yeah.
Used to be a thing that Flair would do a lot, but heels would do often. It looks great. I don't think I've seen it in a long time.
They say in that match, too, I think Shivani's like, I've never seen that before. He says it on commentary.
Yes, he does. It looked awesome. I'm like, why doesn't anyone else ever do that? Because it looked great. And it seems like you could do it safely, but maybe not.
Well, we'll know once Kevin Owens does one that he is a listener of the Blue Thunder Pod. I don't have a lot for this match because everything was just really good. So
it was a
which is the case when we.
My notes were like this. It is amusing to me that of these 4 men in real life, the nastiest boy was almost certainly William Regal. Knowing his history and such. Yeah. There was a funny line again. Shivani goes, our announce team colleague would call Dusty Rhodes would call this a clubberin'. And Heenan goes, yeah, he would. You eat 2 pounds of hay and then try and talk.
That's good stuff.
The goat.
Yeah, it's funny.
I said this is the best version of this kind of match, like a sloppy but not sloppy, intentionally sloppy, so actually very precise.
Yeah,
to make it look like it's a sloppy brawl.
Right.
But both guys are hitting their spots perfectly.
Yeah.
Regal's puke face makes me want to puke. Did you notice or catch Bobby Heenan? He didn't say an outright, but he made a veiled reference to Knobs' stabbing injury.
No.
He said, I was talking to an orthopedist I know that Knobs goes to, and the incident that he experienced a few years back, this orthopedist says that he probably still has some issues with his ribs.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? That had to be the stabbing, because the way he phrased that and everything, I don't think that would have ever otherwise been referenced on television.
Right.
That was pretty cool, I thought. But I don't know how many people in 1995 would have known what the fuck was going on. Dirt sheets weren't even that big a deal outside of the real niche tape trading community back then.
I do remember back in the day not knowing what the fuck they were saying sometimes.
A bunch. Well, now we're going back and I'm like, oh, Roddy Piper makes dick jokes on every one of his promos that I didn't catch.
Right.
But that kind of insidery stuff.
There was some inside baseball just out in the open because there was no fear of anyone knowing what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Because who did we have? Meltzer? to report, and that was like it.
Yeah, and that was like it was the internet was barely the internet, so you had to get like
95?
actual newsletters. So I was
That's
doing
when we
that.
were getting AOL CDs in the mail.
Yeah,
Like,
I was 14. I'm not getting newsletters sent to the house. My dad would be like, "What, $29.99?
Yeah.
The fuck out of here with it."
where's your pink shirt?
Regal does a elbow drop from the apron to the floor that is dope as hell. It looks
Yeah.
like a Mick Foley like bump.
Yeah.
He's so great.
He's wonderful.
I wish he would just never had the personal demons because boy, he would have been like all timer.
You know what's fucked up? He already is an all timer.
He is, but
just
like
based.
we're talking about like him with Savage and like Hogan and
I
other
agree.
legendary
Yeah.
names
Even
because he's that good.
Given his limitations based on personal stuff, he's already an all timer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to your point, like minus this, we all get the fucking point.
He had another good one in the front row, but on the hard cam side. So this was to the person's back. It was like a black dude, like a bald black dude with one of those like Cosby kind of stripy sweaters.
Yep.
And Bobby Heenan goes, "Hey, is that Montel Williams watching the match?" Shimani's like, "I don't know, might be."
Oh God.
Regal's the best in between guy, maybe ever. Is what I. And then Harlem Heat like come out and. The
Also,
end of the match is the only thing I didn't like because it was like overbooked and stupid and sloppy. But
So they do a double noggin knocker.
yeah,
Who is it? I just put initials down. Brian Knobs and Steven Regal. SR. I'm used to him like William Regal.
I called him William Regal a minute ago
Who's
too.
SR? So Regal and Brian Knobs do double noggin knocker, and then Harlem Heat and Sherry come out. They distract the ref. Earl Robert Eaton is climbing the top rope while Booker T is climbing the top rope.
I forgot to mention Bobby calls him Earl Robert of Eaton. I'm like, what is Eaton in the countryside in England?
He's of Eaton. He's the Robert of Eaton.
Like he's upon time,
Right.
upon Eaton. He's Earl Robert upon
Stratford upon Eaton. So while Eaton's climbing the top rope, Booker T's also climbing the top rope, and he does the Harlem Hangover that we were referencing not too long ago. And he lands on Brian Knobs. And after he finishes, he jumps over the top rope, which ultimately makes Eaton fall off the top rope, and he racks himself on the top rope. And then Jerry Sags climbs to the top rope. So Eaton's now laying in the ring. Jerry Sags goes to the top rope and does like the Bret Hart like tight elbow drop.
Yeah.
And he covers
across the ring too for like a
far.
350-pound guy. It was like this is not beautiful, but that distance for that big a guy, it was like whoa.
Again, the Nasty Boys don't get the love
They
they
rule.
fucking deserve. Yeah. And so the Nasty Boys win after that move, and this backfired because Harlem Heat came out to screw over the Nasty Boys.
It was confusing too.
They had to explain it, and I guess when Booker T jumped over the rope. Top rope, which caused Eaton to fall off the top rope. That was the big mistake.
Evidently accidental, but when I went back and watched it again, and it looked like he was trying to knock him off.
Yeah.
To me, so nobody really understood what the
It's
hell was
also
going
the
on.
least sneaky way to get out of the ring.
Yeah.
Is to spread your body as wide as it can be, and then fly over the top rope.
Flop over the top rope
Yeah.
when you're 6'5". It was kind of a bummer too because this was a really good match
Yeah.
up until then. I would have liked to have just had a regular finish.
I wonder a couple pay-per-views from now how this whole thing fucking wrapped up, because they seem like they all been fighting forever. So I got to assume it goes a couple more cycles, a couple more pay-per-view cycles.
Didn't we see Harlem Heat have a great match with the Nasty Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that
the end of it?
That might have been the end of this.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought that while I was watching it because like Sherry was still with them then too.
Could have been one more after
I
that?
think so, right? Yeah,
Well,
I think that was, and it was like that. It was like the following year. So, and this was like in August or something.
Yeah.
So it could have been that. Could have been the. It would have been a nice end because that was a great match.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's a long story, too.
I just didn't like you finish to this. I when you give me a good match, I prefer just some kind of a just straight ending.
Yeah.
Even if it's a cheatery one.
Next, we got something that's going to be fun.
So yeah, the next thing that happened on the show, as you mentioned, pretty fun to talk about. It's pretty interesting.
The bracket. The bracket for the United States title tournament. It's a vacant United States title.
Vacated. Did they mention why it was vacated?
On the show, I don't believe
I don't think
so.
they did either, because I was listening for it and didn't. WCW loved vacating a title.
Yeah.
It was one of their favorite things to do. But this led to one of the most goddamn stacked roster tournaments I've ever seen in my life.
So in round 1, Sting versus Arn Anderson.
By the way, I should mention what you're basing this off of was like a fantastic video package. They ran down the entire tournament like at lightning speed and also very like concise, but like informative.
Right.
I understood exactly how every match ended and why, like, and what kind of match I was getting, you know.
It had very like when you were at an arcade and you were like watching Mortal Kombat. Nobody was playing, but they were giving you like bios of everything going on. It was very fast and informative. It's like
gives you a lot of information real quick.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, Sting versus Arn Anderson, round 1.
Yeah, not a bad first round.
God damn it. Then we had Paul Orndorff versus Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah.
Also, God damn it.
Johnny B. Bad, who famously for us on this podcast, well, you've also fallen in love with to a degree.
Yeah. Meng versus Marcus Bagwell.
Yeah, that's what it is.
His calves weren't quite infected yet.
Meng.
Brian Pillman versus Bunkhouse Buck. And then we had Ric Flair versus The Patriot.
Yeah.
Is that Del Wilkes?
Yeah, and Patriot's pretty awesome, actually. Like,
95?
Yeah.
1 year later, he's going to have 2 years later, he's going to have a very fucking underrated feud with Bret Hart in WWE.
Oh, yeah. Yes. It was fantastic.
Alex Riley versus Big Bubba Rogers.
Yeah, which is Boss Man.
I would have loved to see that. I might go back and watch.
Alex Wright.
What did I say?
Alex Riley. Alex Riley was the guy that Cena got fired. Alex
Damn it.
Wunderkind.
Damn it.
Wunderkind versus Big Boss Man.
Alex Riley got a shit end of a stick, too.
Yeah, he did.
We'll cover him later. Alex Wright, the Das Wunderkind, versus Big Bubba Rogers. Randy Savage versus The Butcher. You know who The Butcher is?
Brutus Barber. Brutus Barber.
Brother Brutai. Yeah. And then Steve Austin versus Jim Duggan.
Fucking Stone Cold. There's a match later in the tournament that I'm like, that might be the greatest pairing I've ever seen and ever. Like,
so Sting beats Arn Anderson, Paul Orndorff. I'll just say who advanced. You'll get the gist of it based on who is in the next round. So next round we have the quarterfinals. Sting versus Paul Orndorff.
Which awesome.
Goddamn. Meng versus Brian Pillman.
Yeah, too bad for Meng.
Yeah.
Too bad for Pillman that Meng is there.
Yeah. I wonder how. I would have loved to see how badly Pillman bumped for that match, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. All over the place.
He probably looked amazing. Ric Flair versus Alex Wright.
And like you said, that's his big.
That's his boy.
Like the guy that he's promoting. So you know that Flair showed up the party.
Probably gave him a hell of a rub.
I'm sure that was an awesome match.
And then a match I thought can only exist in WWE 2K programming for video games. Macho Man Randy Savage versus not quite yet Stone Cold Steve Austin.
The greatest match of all time happened, who knew, on like the undercard tournament for the U.S. title in 1995. Macho Man Randy Savage still can very much go, as we see here. Yeah. Macho Man Randy Savage.
So can Austin.
Against a just about to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Holy shit.
Pre-broken neck Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Jesus Christ.
Goodness.
Wrestling's a great thing, isn't it?
Just gonna let that marinate for a second.
Go back in time and you're like, holy shit.
I've had this match.
A dream of mine that I didn't think could have possibly have occurred. It happened.
Yeah.
It was like when I was watching another WCW pay-per-view, the one where it was like supposed to be a bunch of lottery balls, and there was a tag team of like, again, about to be Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rick Rude.
Oh, Jesus.
Rick Rude on the best run of his career.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. And I missed it because I fell for all the shiny lights and glitz of WWF and paid zero attention
Savio
to this stuff
Vega.
that was going on.
Savio Vega was on TV. We couldn't help ourselves. The next round, which is the semifinals, we had Sting versus Ming.
They screwed that up the whole night, by the way. The man's name is Meng.
Is it Meng?
Everybody calls him Ming. It's I spelled M-E-N-G, but literally every single person.
You let me go this whole episode making an asshole of myself.
I don't think you did as hard. I think I would have mentioned it earlier.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it was a note I made like here that like all the announcers, all of them, like Okerlund, both commentators, everybody calls him Ming, and I'm like, Ming is a dude from a TV show.
Right.
Meng is this guy with the square head because there's an E in his name, not an I.
So this match, Sting versus Meng, was originally scheduled as a semifinal match, but the other semifinal match between Randy Savage and Ric Flair ended in a no contest, and both men were eliminated from the tournament, resulting in Sting and Meng having their
Becoming
match
the
be
final.
the final.
Yeah. The Savage Flair thing was did we talk about the Poffo, his dad? Yeah, Angelo Poffo.
We mentioned it in the beginning.
So Ric Flair beats the shit out of Randy's dad, which leads to blood feud, which leads to no contest,
right?
And that's why they're out of this tournament. And we get Sting, unfortunately, needing to carry this fucking talentless asshole.
But before we get there, we're trying to get some it's gonna be good, but because it's Sting, right? The guy's fucking he's undeniable.
Absolutely.
Right? Before we get to the match, we have a backstage interview with Mean Gene, Colonel Robert Parker, and Meng. And Colonel Parker's trying his best to make me believe Meng has a fucking chance in hell.
Who does Colonel Parker know? That we know Jimmy Hart's is Hogan.
Yeah.
Colonel Parker manages everybody else. So
it's
Bockwinkel's cousin.
He reeks of just a relic from 80s Southern
He's a wrestler.
Wrestling. Yeah.
I looked him up, and he was a 70s wrestler.
Well, there you go. He's a
with
name.
An absolutely incredible stable. He started with Mick Foley and Terry Funk, and just an awesome looking stable.
Yeah.
Plus, he in this match bumps and punches better than Meng.
Right.
But he manages everybody that Jimmy Hart doesn't.
And while he's trying to make me believe that Meng has a chance of winning this, Meng is just shadow kickboxing the entire time. Just off to the side.
Yeah.
So, A for effort. After this, the announcers, Shivani and Bobby Heenan, are talking about Bash at the Beach coming up. And Bobby Heenan says there's maybe going to be 100,000 people. Maybe 150,000 people are going to watch Vader versus Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach. And then they play...
where are they going to play that at? The Superdome?
Yeah. They play the commercial for Bash at the Beach. And we're halfway through the fucking pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying hey, look how great this thing is for this show that is not tonight.
Sting's about to wrestle.
Yeah, Sting's about to wrestle. And then speaking of Sting, because we just heard from Colonel Robert Parker, we're going to hear backstage from Mean Gene and Sting. And Sting just cuts a good promo. He looks fucking cool. He's the fucking man.
I said I put Sting up there in the pantheon of... with Edge in the category of always looking real crisp with your gear.
Yeah.
He's got a peach and baby blue gear / face paint going on.
Yeah.
Just always looks just like he cares.
Dude,
he's putting effort in.
Dude understands color theory for sure. And then we the next thing scheduled is the United States title match. It's the finals of the tournament. Sting versus Meng with Colonel Tom Parker. Goes 13 minutes and 34 seconds. So, Dave, something that occurred to me while this match was starting and Stinger was coming out to his classic theme. For the majority of his WCW career, I do believe, at least pre-Crow, A Man Called Sting, it's goes a little like this. He's a man called Sting, the man called Sting. He does this. He does that. He's big as a bull and as quick as a cat. I would have said strong as a bull, but He looks fine. He looks cool. He's his own man and he's nobody's fool. Don't you dare cross him or get in his way, 'cause if you do, you're gonna have to pay. He's the man called Sting, and so on. Yeah.
And what occurred to me is Sting and Ming, because they've been calling him Ming this whole show, have a similar sounding name. So what would it sound like if they wrote this song specifically for Ming?
Sure.
And I thought, it might go a little something like this. He's a man called Ming. The man called Ming. He won't sell. He hits snug. He looks like the Thing, but he moves like a slug. He seems bored. He looks dim. He assaults service workers just for looking at him. He don't wear boots. 'cause he don't work. He's just here for a paycheck. He's a big lazy jerk. He's the man called Ming. The man called Ming.
You don't wear boots because he doesn't work. That's funny. It's all funny, but it's good. It's good.
I was pretty happy with it.
No,
I did it like 5 minutes before you walked in the door. So
your text was great. You're like, I wrote a parody. That's pretty good.
Man, I always hated Ming Haku. Like back in the day, I was just like, boring match coming. Here comes this asshole. The more we go back and watch this dude, worthless. What is he there for?
Yeah.
I know there's a million stories about him being like, shoot, tough guy, but did he just like beat everybody up until they put him on TV or something?
I never understood
There are no police
that either.
around. Why he doesn't? His strikes look weak, and then he just doesn't sell at all.
Right.
He took one bump in this whole match. Does not sell any of Sting or anybody else's offense.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing.
Right.
What? That's not a thing. That's not a thing in wrestling.
Nope.
Not selling and not really throwing like good look, like kind of dangerous, but also at the same time not very good looking strikes.
No, this was a WWF Hulk Hogan match.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this was the.
I mean, Sting was doing his best here to like
yeah,
try and
yeah.
fix.
I'm not
the
disparaging
unfixable.
Not disparaging Sting, but like just the structure of the match was it was a monster heel beatdown and a glorious babyface comeback. Yeah, he's not good. He's never been good. I've never enjoyed watching. I've never been like stoked to like, oh, Haku's on TV.
I know, like I'm. It's going to be a struggle for me not to cheer against Tama Tonga now, because as much as I love him in WWE, like I know that he is the progeny of this guy.
Yeah.
And like watching this under, through the lens of we've been watching these like matches from this era, and I know like what Sting is. Right. And I also know that he's a really good dude and like gives a lot during his matches and stuff.
Yep.
And just watch this asshole with the like. His whole thing is my head looks like a cinder block with a crudely painted face on it. Yeah. And that's all he does. Like
crudely painted.
Literally doesn't bump. Nothing. And then Sting is like working his ass off.
Yeah.
And this asshole is no selling his like legendary offense.
You know what this asshole also did for the first time ever? Broke out of the Scorpion Deathlock.
Yeah. He before he broke out of it, didn't sell it for 1/2 a second.
No.
Heenan made a comment that I think was kind of an underhanded shot at him. He's like, oh, look, he's not even moving his head. Yeah. And there's no reason Heenan would have said that other than to say, sell, you prick. That's Sting. It's a Scorpion Deathlock. And he didn't get to the ropes or anything. He just kicked him out of it. Like nothing.
No, he was very hard to beat because the move that has beaten pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
The Scorpion Deathlock. He kicks out of that.
Pretty quick, too.
Kicks out of a top rope splash.
Yeah, an awesome top rope splash from a guy that's 6'5", 300 pounds.
Absolutely. Like, and then Sting does a jumping, like he jumps in the air and comes back down and catches Meng in a DDT.
So like that was like an awesome jumping DDT that Meng fucked up completely. Yeah. But like Sting's part of it looked incredible. Like
everything
that could have
Sting
been
does looks incredible.
That splash, by the way, was like, oh, that's Mike Awesome. He's the same size, and he's doing the awesome.
Oh,
he's doing the Mike Awesome splash.
Oh, they're the same. They're the same height.
They're both 6'5".
Wow.
Yeah. Sting's huge. Yeah. Like he's incredible. I hate Ming so much. Why was he in the finals with the names that we just like listed in this tournament? This prick had to be in the finals on the pay-per-view. Yeah. Like he does nothing. Nothing well.
He loses and lets Sting win the United States title in the most Japanese of endings because we didn't know where the finish was going to come, and when the finish did come, the crowd popped like a surprise pop, like, oh,
yeah, because like Sting does a DDT finisher, but it's the Scorpion Death Drop, not this new one that he's used. Meng probably, you know why? Because Meng doesn't take fucking back bumps because he only took one in this whole goddamn match. Meng
is that a fact?
No, I'm
making that up?
I'm guessing. I know that Meng takes like no back bumps through his career and in this match because I was like, I'm going to count how many back bumps he takes, and it was one soft one. And a Scorpion Death Drop is a pretty hard back bump.
Yeah,
and the DDT that Sting had to do was a hard back bump for him,
right?
And Meng's part of it was to take a very soft face bump, which is like not dangerous at all. So I'm sure that's why they did it. Meng sucks so bad. I hate him so much.
Well, in the midst of the Sting celebration as the new United States champion, we find out that Billy Ray, who looks like Big Bubba, is the contest winner for the Does Your Dad Look Like a Wrestler guy. Cool.
He did. Looks like that.
He looked just like him. He looked just like the Big Boss Man or Big Bubba.
I don't know if he's 6'7". It was hard to tell from the shot.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I mean, you shoot the camera angle a certain way, you can make anybody look 6'7".
Did you see the when they went to the outside? Of course, the Meng didn't bump to the outside. Sting did, but they both ended up on the outside.
Right.
So they're on the floor, and there was a thing on the floor laying there that looked exactly like, I think this is what it was. It was the plastic hose extender to a shop vac. It was like sitting under the rail, and it had been sitting there since the Harlem Heat match because they used it as like a weapon.
Right.
And I don't know why a shop vac part was ever used, but nobody cleaned it up, and this is very WCW. Like, no attention to detail. Like,
if the part of the shop vac is not being used to clean something up, how do you clean up the unused part of the thing that's supposed to clean up something else?
It's just a big plastic thing you pick up.
No, it's a paradox. How can you clean something that's supposed to clean other things?
Get a bigger shop vac.
I went really out of my way to try to make a joke there.
Hey, well, and I paid it off.
Yeah. See?
I did say Sting's top rope offense is fucking insane for a man his size. Yeah. Like, he does it with ease. He gets on the top rope like as easily as Swerve. And he's like 5 inches taller.
I think Sting's not getting the love he should in this era of WCW. Who does he have that's a dance partner that can make him shine like he shines?
He's had great he had like awesome matches.
But like there's nobody else like him in WCW at this time.
Okay, yeah, because he's huge.
But like if you go to any other era of wrestling, like there's always at least one other guy that can.
I mean, Sting and Flair had a couple of 5-star matches.
Like, no, that's fine, but like Flair can't do what Sting can do. Is my point.
But you know what? And to your point here, and this is maybe the only time that this has kind of happened, that like athletically and physically, my favorite or second favorite, maybe after the Sting match that I've ever seen was that tag match where Sting, and he carried Luger here, but Sting and Luger and the Steiners.
Yeah.
And it's just nonstop action. Yeah. And it's like at least 3 of the 4 are all just big, giant, jacked, super athletic, super motivated guys. And it's like, holy shit, this is like a match from the future or something. And that's the only time I can really remember seeing Sting have guys like that.
Maybe he turned it up because he could actually turn it up.
Yeah. That was a great finish too. It was a cheater one, but Sting being awesome. Ivan Koloff came running down, or Nikita Koloff came running down like with his hand wrapped in a chain, but he's sprinting full speed down the ramp, and just as he gets to the ring, perfectly timed, has to throw a punch with and Sting has to time it to where he's doing a move and he ends up with his face like just over the ropes as Koloff is throwing this punch.
Yeah.
Timed exactly perfectly, and Sting bleeds the hard way there, like busted open real bad, and then they fight to the back, and that's awesome too.
Yeah.
But that match rules. It was well, we may have to do that pay-per-view one of these days. But I think you're right though. I think like because there he had guys that could physically kind of do what he could do, and it's really at no other time can I remember him having that.
Other than that, it's just a bunch of dives, and like granted, I'm not putting down at all what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see him
don't have somebody,
have him time travel to AEW in 2024.
Yeah.
It's one guy from England that would fucking love.
Ricky Steamboat, like, did they ever? They were both super babyface always, and they didn't really do those then. But that would have been something. He was a smaller dude too, but
even him and Pillman.
Oh yeah,
you know? It's right there.
But again, Pillman was a babyface.
Lion Ryan was a yeah.
So he got stuck fucking like Van Hammer.
You know what? They didn't. I don't think they had flashy heels. I don't think that was a thing that existed until.
Yeah, no, I think it was like you're a heel if we can't get you over kind of thing.
Yeah, and also like you were more ground and pound.
Yeah.
You were like
like big flashy moves, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I
think that's just like if he's a victim of his culture at the time.
You know what the one positive is, though? We got to see 64-year-old ass Sting still kicking ass in a modern match to end the career.
Yeah. Super divisive.
Greatest career of all time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying greatest wrestler of all time. I am saying he's in that conversation.
Yeah.
But I think greatest wrestling career of all time.
It's up there.
Stinger.
It's definitely up there.
Considering how it ended and that he still seems to be pretty happy and healthy.
Yeah. Well, while both of these guys are still happy and healthy and motivated, and,
Meng's never happy.
don't have a.
Unless he's collecting his paycheck.
Oh no, the next thing.
Oh, okay.
They don't have to contend with a egomaniac on the show. We get Randy Savage versus Ric Flair. They recap it really nicely to give us an idea of why I'm supposed to care about this. So, Savage defeated Avalanche, who is Earthquake, at Super Brawl in February. And then he gets in Flair's face after, and Flair's in the audience at this point.
Yep.
So Flair is like, in story, I'm not sure if it's in real life, like he's not wrestling. Like he's freshly back.
Flair in real life has had like 4 different instances of contract dispute where he was kind of out of the company or back in. I think that might have been like him returning from one of those.
Oh, okay. So this was kayfabe that they're saying like, okay. So Savage and Hogan wanted Flair to return to wrestle in April. Savage was attacked at Uncensored in March by Flair, and during this attack, Ric Flair is dressed like a woman. And this is also a match Savage is having with Avalanche. And you can't really even notice it's Flair right away, and he beats the shit out of Randy Savage.
He does. It's really a woman. He's dressed like a female spy, like in the 1980s like Russian spy movie or something.
It gave me Tu Wong Fu vibes.
Yes.
Like when Wesley Snipes was like in drag.
But it was a little like jarring. But that lady's beating the shit out of Macho Man.
You don't know it right away, right? So at this point, Ric Flair's reinstated, and they do.
That's all you got to do: dress up like a lady and beat the shit out of one of the biggest
Get
stars.
Your job back. Also on Slamboree, the pay-per-view that's being referenced,
the greatest show of all time.
It's
WrestleMania 30, apparently.
Ric Flair and Vader versus Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. After the match, Ric Flair punches and puts Angelo Poffo into a figure 4 leg lock.
Again, Angelo not looking real healthy here, but doing his best, man. Like putting more effort in than fucking Meng did.
Yeah, by a mile. So then, as we mentioned earlier, Ric Flair fought Alex Wright. I wrote Alex Riley in my notes. Alex Wright in a...
They do kind of look alike, too.
Yeah, it's right there. Ric Flair fought Alex Wright in the semifinal match in the U.S. title tournament, and the way that Alex Riley... Right, damn it. The way that Alex Wright lost is Randy Savage comes in and he beats the shit out of Ric Flair.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, of Alex Wright.
Well, no, he just throws Alex Wright, which is the DQ because it's first, and then he beats the shit out of him.
That's right. So because he attacked Ric Flair...
He wanted him in the match, so he got Alex Wright DQ'd.
So, yes. And after the match, they show Savage and Alex Wright talking, and Savage is like explaining, like, this is why he did this. Like,
this is why I did this, brother.
Understand.
You really do a Savage.
And he does. Yeah. And Alex Wright understands. He's pissed, but he understands. So before they...
Plus, he's 19, and it's the Macho Man. I'd be like, whatever you say, boss.
And so this sets up Savage and Flair in the U.S. title tournament. But before that match, Savage and Flair fight backstage and like into the street. So they're both kicked out of the tournament.
Yeah.
Which is why we ultimately get Sting versus Meng in the finals. And then Savage tonight is fighting...
Could have been Sting versus Steve Austin. Come on. Speaking of guys that could have given him a great match, 6'3", 265, super athlete at the time, Steve Austin.
We forget that the better version of Stone Cold was in this company at the time. But so the story here is Savage is avenging his father on Father's Day for the beatdown that Ric Flair gave him. So
his promo, right? Macho's promo cuts right before the match.
That's the very next thing. Yeah.
Were you gonna? Okay.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "What the hell are you talking about, Macho?"
Yeah, it was a little.
It worked out though. Like it made sense after.
He could have said nothing. So like what I think we're both getting at is first he wishes he goes Happy Father's Day to Angelo Poffo wherever you are,
and I'm like, he's your dad. He's not dead. What are you talking about? Why? What is he missing? Do we need to call the police? Why do you not know where Angelo Poffo is?
He should have said nothing.
Yeah,
because moments later when we get Macho Man coming out. His dad walks out with him.
It was a reveal. They did it as a reveal because the way they did it was Macho came out. They did the pre Goldberg era Goldberg pyro where they did the bunch of sparklies for a real long time. Also, that scared the shit out of Macho Man when they first got him. He was like, ah! And that the reason they did that was to make the wall of sparklies, when it went down, Angelo was behind him. So it was done as kind of a reveal. So I understand why he said wherever you are, because he was like kind of being slick about it.
Right.
If he was just a Happy Father's Day or like this one's for my dad, it would have still worked a little better.
Yeah.
But like at first when he said it, I'm like, what are you? What's wrong, Macho? What are you talking about? We just watched an entire package involving your dad. Now you're talking about him like he's been dead for 10 years.
It was misdirection for misdirection's sake, and no one wanted this or need. Like, we got it. Story's fucking solidified.
And they do a wonderful job as it unfolds too.
I did write as Angelo Poffo walks out. By the way, his dad is 70 here. That's a hard 70.
Oh. He looks 95.
Yeah. I wrote he looks like Walter Donovan, who was the guy who drank from the wrong cup in the Last Crusade.
He does. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, post sip.
Yeah, post.
He's with the cane. He's trying, but not looking good. Is this the greatest theme off of all time? We have
Pomp and Circumstance.
Pomp and Circumstance versus early Sprach Zarathustra.
It's there. Classically,
it's the two best of those kind, right? Like,
well, what? Yeah,
like of the big bombastic classical music ones.
I can't even think of another one.
No, me neither. Really.
No. Like maybe Piper coming out to
like the
bagpipes.
The bags, yeah, those were good. Not like, but this is
British Bulldog coming
awesome.
out to.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
like when he beat
Bret Hart,
Hitman, that was a pretty awesome
SummerSlam.
Yeah. This has got to be the two biggest, though. I found out in my research that there was there's some controversy because Flair originally for 20 years from the 70s to like 92 came out to early Sprach Zarathustra, and then he slightly changed it in his WWF run to something just called early Sprach, which is like another part of the the classical whatever. Mm-hmm. It's organized slightly differently, since some people thought that it's not as impactful. But it all sounded exactly the same to me when I listened to both of them. Yeah. And Pomp and Circumstance, I've said this before, is I think the greatest wrestling entrance music ever.
Yep. I'm just trying to think of what. We could do that one.
There's other songs that I love. When I was just playing for you, Simply Ravishing, like Rick Rude's WCW theme's great. I like that as a song. It's actually like a jam.
So you're saying just like a straight instrumental?
For just a wrestler thing for a wrestler to come out to. Yeah. It's awesome. And it makes me think of when him and Elizabeth got back together and that song was playing. And I'm like, there would not be a better song on earth to play than that song.
Can you imagine she jumps over the ropes and you just hear, ow, wow, ow, wow.
Oh, man, I would not be a pro wrestling fan today, Dave. I would have turned my attention to I don't know, figure skating or bird watching, some other hobby. This podcast would not exist.
The regular NWO song dusts the Wolfpack song, though. The Wolfpack song is
Wolfpack song is a song, at least. The regular NWO that's
better.
Worse than Pavement's experimental nonsense. It's just sounds.
Yeah.
It's like Wesley Willis is better than that song. It's just a bunch of sounds.
Oh, you mean these sounds? Sounds
like a 3-year-old pounding away on a Casio.
It's funny because it's so fucking accurate. If you have no idea how to play the keys, new. But then they nail the. It's like fuck.
Thankfully, for today, we get early Sprach Zarathustra and Pomp and Circumstance.
They start beating the shit out of each other before the bell starts.
Yeah.
Again, this is
blood feud.
The third example, maybe the fourth, where the anger is properly being mirrored with the work being done.
And the commentators' energy level goes about 5,000% higher.
Yeah,
They're
so
like,
the entire...
these two guys are going to both try their asses off. So now, so are we.
Yeah.
And they are both totally into the story now. Heenan's scared for his buddy because Macho's obviously unhinged for good reason.
Right.
Giving advice to Rick like he kind of did in the Rumble show that we reviewed, but in a different, like you mentioned, different kind of vibe, more of a like, oh, I hope Macho doesn't like maim him or something, kind of thing. It's again, not to repeat myself from an earlier match, but like there's a level of sloppiness, intentional sloppiness to the early part of this match because they're just like can't stop from hurting each other, but they're so good at like all of the like I said, maybe the two best work punches ever in the history of wrestling. They're so good at that and body positioning and understanding like how everything looks on TV and to the crowd. That like it's all, despite it being sloppy, it's perfect. It's all perfect. This is such a great match. Like,
this was Savage's. I feel bad saying like he's miss around like, but I feel like he's pretty hit or miss around this time. He hits so fucking, and when I say
not on anything we've done. I mean, but like
when I say
match where he slammed the Giants, we were like, Jesus Christ, that's awesome. Like,
I guess I just mean like, I don't know. I don't know what I mean. Like I just get this feeling where I'm like, I didn't get the feeling that he was like a big goddamn deal again until his DDP feud.
At the time, I agree with you. At the time, I was like, But now going back, for whatever reason, I've changed or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, this guy was fucking unbelievable.
I think that's what it is. Like, I think I'm injecting some.
But back
old
then,
DNA.
I agree. Back then, I was like, he's past it or whatever. Yeah. But now, like going back
that's
and
fair.
saying, okay, I'm going to look at this with new eyes. I'm like, holy shit, this is a 5-star match. It's unbelievable.
And like it definitely fucking was.
Yeah.
Just little consistencies here where. So the story is like Flair's attacking Angelo Poffo and he grabs Angelo Poffo at some point, and Savage goes to check on his dad, and Flair has scurried at this point, and then Flair just starts clipping his fucking knee like throughout your entire fucking career, and you're just sticking to your character. It's awesome.
And then Macho Man, like later in the match, he has his knee clipped a few times throughout. Flair's going because it's the figure four.
Yeah.
He's working it. And then later on, when Macho's like throwing punches from a seated position, he still is able to like believably sell that his punches are like not quite because of the knee.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to do that kind of physical acting to show me that the reason your punches don't have a lot of power is because your other knee is hurt.
Yeah.
He does it incredibly well. Right. And also when they're doing that, they're in a position in the ring again because they're wrestling geniuses. That makes it the absolute optimal place for them to be for us, the viewer, to understand what's happening. Like,
and also too, what you mentioned, just to lean into the work, the single leg atomic drop outside onto the guardrail.
Yeah.
And Shivani just like, I never fucking saw that before. Yeah. And then, there's a figure four for a long time after this.
I mean, that's always that's been a Flair thing. It's not like
fine.
Not like Scorpion Deathlock that usually ends matches real fast, except for asshole.
Yeah. There's a lot of
figure four, and he's a heel for most of his career. So like they do that.
There's a lot of drama inserted there where like he's gaining leverage on the ropes. You're teasing the turn. Like you can sit in that thing for 10 minutes and do 50.
There's whole stories he tells with that.
But it does not end the match.
These guys I can't remember either one of them ever mailing it in a match. Like
wait a minute, ever in this match?
In any match, really, just like mailing it in. There was a time, I guess, when Macho was like super roided up in the NWO days that probably I don't really remember. We haven't watched those yet.
Yeah,
but like
Flair did at the end.
I don't consider at the end Flair. That's just Flair way past when he should have been gone. Yeah. He's done being Flair then. Like, if Nolan Ryan went out and tried to pitch a game right now, it'd suck.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be like, well, he's mailing it in. He's too old. He can't throw. Like,
did you ever see the movie Cobb? About Ty Cobb.
Is that with Tommy Lee Jones? Yes. I did, I believe.
One of my favorite lines in any movie.
You're not going to say the N-word, Dave.
Not even a little bit,
okay.
No. So it's the scene where it's the first class of Baseball Hall of Fame, and Ty Cobb is the very first. He might have been the very first guy
I think he was. I think he was the first guy.
And they're doing interviews with him, and he, I forget how old he is. Let's say he's 75. But some guy's interviewing him and saying like, "Oh, Ty Cobb, your career batting average is like 367 or something like that. How do you think you'd fare against guys today? He's like, I don't know, I hit about 240, 250. He's like, why so low? He's like, I'm 75 fucking years old.
Yeah. I do. After you started, I'm like, that is a great line. I do remember, and it's the only thing I remember from the movie. Yes.
There is another very good line. I mean, where he's laying with a lady that does not want to lay with him, and
like Colonel Robert Parker,
and he can't. At his age, he cannot perform. So he has to concede that it's not going to happen, and he tells her. He goes, you tell everybody you fuck Ty Cobb, and Ty Cobb's the best fuck you ever had. Anyway, Ric Flair.
Speaking of old guys, though, Ric Flair's not a spring chicken in 1995, and he's still working his goddamn ass off there.
Ric Flair age. Well, right now he's 70. He's 75. You tell everybody you fuck Ric Flair.
I guarantee you Flair has said something to that, like in that general zone before to a young lady in his life.
Let's see, 50, 60, 70, 80. Wait. He's 45, 46-ish in this match.
And so not a young wrestler.
No. Especially back then when it was like chastised.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, you're old, you're past your prime. And fucking 1995.
And Macho was 43.
Okay.
And Vince, because it was 3 years prior that Vince was like, you're too old, you're 40, you're too old.
What is it about, like, man, just being motivated that gets people looking spectacular in everything they do?
It's crazy. And when people care and are fired up about
consistent.
it. Like,
we make that analogy all the time on this. Like, just change of scenery, like in a baseball team. Like, fucking Albert Pujols had another career after he, like...
If you get motivated, you can do well. Dave, if we did this podcast and it was about gardening, probably wouldn't be very good because I wouldn't give a shit.
But I'd get to say the word begonia.
Yeah, we'd make it funny, sure, but it wouldn't have the same energy.
Yeah. Talking about perennials and
perennial greats like the Macho Man,
like
Randy
the Macho
Savage,
Man,
and the Nature Boy, Ric Flair,
and apparently his father, because his father is also good with timing. There's a point where Flair goes to the top rope, and Angelo's teasing hitting Flair with the cane.
Yeah,
just like basic recognition of everybody knowing their role. It's fucking dope. Savage does end up hitting the top rope elbow drop.
Schiavone did not have good timing there because he fucked up that call when Poffo was going to. He's like, Poffo to the top rope, and I'm like, no, please, no, not that. That man looks about 146 years old.
It'd be like on Chris Angel when they did Shaq Balloon. Poffo balloon, but Savage hits the top rope elbow. He pulls up Ric Flair at 2 because he wants to continue this beating. You don't see that too often anymore.
You don't. You very, very rarely see the pull up. I hate you. I just want to keep beating you down
all the time.
It used to happen nonstop.
Yeah.
And especially from the babyface here.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, assaulted his dad. I get it. It's a good reason to want to keep beating the hell out of this prick.
Absolutely.
I did realize watching this match. I don't know why it didn't occur to me many years ago. Macho Man's always had that super weird hair. Like his hair's just weird. I realized why in this match. I'm like, because remember after he retired and then he was happy for like the 2 years before he crashed and died. He had like white hair.
Yes,
he just had white hair probably since the early '80s, and it's just fermenting it the whole time.
Yeah,
because your hair is very different texture if it's like gone totally gray. He probably just went super gray real early in his life, and he just fermented like nonstop, which is why he had that weird ass hair since the 80s.
Makes sense.
I don't know why it didn't occur to me until watching this match. I'm like looking at Randy's goofy hair again, and going, "Hey,
I did notice
that's all the same color. People's hair isn't all one color." Like,
I noticed it that exact thing when I remember seeing Spider-Man and being like, Bonesaw looks like he's got a comb, special comb at home.
Ready. He's even great in that.
Yeah, he was terrific in everything he does. So there's a brutal spot at some point. Savage goes to he's at the top rope and he does a double axe handle to the outside and he lands right on his fucking face on the guardrail. It's what you were watching when I walked in.
Yeah.
And his face looks like it hits.
Busted his orbital bone or something.
We still can't figure out. Savage starts bleeding
from his eye.
And we have no idea where. Both of us have gone back to look where and we don't know. And Flair's choking Savage outside, kind of gets him out of the way for a second, and Flair starts walking toward Angelo. And then somehow Flair just gives up his back.
Yeah.
And Angelo's choking Flair with a cane, which cool. That's a nice payoff.
Also working harder than Mang. Angelo. 80-year-old Angelo.
He deserves his own
He also
song.
bumped her better than Mang in this.
Flair back elbows Angelo and then takes his cane. Savage chases Flair away, checks on his dad. Flair goes back in the ring at this point, and Savage follows suit. Savage runs towards Flair, and then Flair,
like the spot I just was talking about, the Nikita Koloff
perfect
timing on this motherfucker.
Perfect timing.
Jesus Christ. I don't know if it was movie magic, the black arts, professional wrestling, but it looked like he just whapped him right in the goddamn face with a baseball swing.
Flair does a 180 spin, like, I don't know, like something as ridiculous as like doing a Happy Gilmore drive at a golf range.
Yeah.
And he fucking cracks
Casey at the badass swing.
Cracks Savage in the, like, it looks like the face.
Yeah, looks like him right in the face with the curved part of the cane.
Yeah. And then he that's how he wins.
I don't know if it was just they agreed, okay, I'm going to let you break my face.
Yeah.
Or if they're just, and probably they're just that good at the dark arts of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn, it looked good.
Yeah. Probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But no, that was it. Flair wins. And this was really fun.
The incredible match.
Was super fun.
I loved one little tiny like production thing I thought was cool. That I don't know if you noticed, but the camera shot they did when Savage dropped the elbow, it was like a thing from a wrestling movie or something. It felt like it was from The Wrestler, like the Aronofsky film, where they kind of like were under him, so you really got to see the flight like he's going over you. Like, it was dope. I don't think I've ever seen that shot done in like that match, especially with like something as iconic as Randy Savage's elbow drop.
Right. Maybe they saved all of their effort for things they wanted to film correctly.
Yeah,
you didn't see a lot of love for this when Mang was in the ring.
No. Yeah,
it was like we put up one camera. We're going to get a sandwich.
By the way, if Mang's such a fucking tough guy, he's not tough enough to do a back bump or two in his matches. Not tough. That's all bullshit too. Those are fish stories. I guarantee you. This match though was.
It's fucking great.
Incredible. And if you're going to have a kind of shitty pay-per-view with a bunch of matches with like half the participants don't really want to work, end it with a 5-star match between two of the all-time greats, because it let me go away from this feeling a little better.
This is a 5, right?
Like, yeah, it's 5. I have 5 stars.
Like legit, like storyline-wise, work-wise.
100%. They're in the in-between stuff I talk about. Yeah. It was better in this than any match I've ever seen, or at least as good as any match I've ever seen. Like, there is not 1 second from start to finish of this match where Ric Flair is not Ric Flair the character doing what Ric Flair the character should be doing, and Randy Savage the character is not Randy Savage the character doing what he should be doing, selling what he should be selling. All times. Like, it's incredible. It's incredible. And it's not, again, further proof that, great matches don't necessarily need to be crazy high spot fests. This had some big spots, but like, this was like psychology 101. But
even the big spots played into, like, the story.
To the
like
the knee thing and
the whacking your face off the thing. Like, it's all. It
was a good way to start the show, good way to finish the show, and some funny bullshit in between. Still not a very good pay-per-view, but
fuck no.
But I enjoyed it for our viewing purposes.
I want to go watch Slamboree now.
I'm absolutely going to watch Slamboree.
It seems like the superior pay-per-view.
But yeah, so that is Great American Bash 1995. Should we let them know what's coming next for Turnbuckle Time Machine, since we've decided?
We've decided the next Turnbuckle Time Machine is going to the extreme.
Extreme. So leave that as the teaser, or we gotta get specific?
I'm okay with that as a teaser.
For anybody who wants to dig out, put your sleuth hat on. The show we're doing next, emanated from the same arena as the one that we just reviewed today. So it should be fun. The next one we get coming up, this was our vegetables. That's going to be our dessert. Please do join us. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Turnbuckle Time Machine. Hope you also tune in Friday morning for our regularly scheduled episodes of the Blue Thunder Pod. Thanks as always. See you later, guys.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.